Hello, everyone. Welcome to Geeky Geezers. I am your host, Aged Boomer. This is my co-host, PaPa Pacelli.
Who's a geezer as well. Maybe even more so.
We feel like that some days, but
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm going to do a mic check, chat. I'm going to read something. You tell me if I sound okay, if I can find what I was going to read, okay. Well, Cuphead and his pal Mugman, they like to roll the dice. Chance they came on the devil's game, and gosh, they paid the price. Paid the price. And now now they are fighting for their lives on a mission fraught with dread. And if they proceed but don't succeed, the devil will take their heads. How did I sound? Okay.
I think he sounds better because, you guys had said previously that he was coming in too quiet last week. And you're right, he was. We were doing a mic check behind the scenes, and I said, I think he fixed it, but we kind of need to know your perspective. Okay, yeah, so Big Al's saying it sounds good.
All right,
Auditor
cool.
Dread says it sounds good. Hey, guys, thanks for being here.
Because I remember I talked to Daniel, and he said I sounded fine on his stream the other day because I was worried that I was not going to be coming in. But I don't know, but we adjusted it, so it should be okay now if there was anything going on.
And I did my homework. I watched the video.
Which video did you watch?
The one about Cuphead.
Did you watch the one?
Yeah.
About the milk?
Yes.
HR long stay.
And I literally said to Nanette, I'm like, I got to do my homework. I got to watch this video before the stream. And I put it up and I watched it, and I'm like, okay. I watched it. Have no idea what the hell I just watched, but I watched it.
You were supposed to. I know that was going to be a joke we got to. Did you watch the video? Like, I see some guy talking about the importance of drinking milk and how to pour a proper cup. What does this have to do with anything? That's the beauty of that trailer. They have a sense of humor.
I kind of got the spirit of what they were going for. It was supposed to be like one of these old-fashioned,
yeah, and I'll give you a little more detail.
Or whatever.
Yeah. But
I'm not unaware of Cuphead.
You have heard of
videos. I've seen some videos about what the general shtick of it is.
Okay, so you get it.
I kind of have a vague understanding of it, but all the rest of this is kind of news to me. So we'll
the show is new. It just got announced this week. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But I wanted to give you some background on the game. But the joke is that those trailers they have, like the one for the PlayStation, had like really bad puppet animation. They went the other direction where it's not even animated. It's like they use puppets for Cuphead. They brought out Cuphead for the Apple Macintosh, and it's funny because it's like an old cartoon, and you see this apple guy walking. He's got a bite out of his head, and you see Cuphead and Mugman eating apples, crunching them, and he goes hi, and then he looks at them eating the apples, and of course he has an apple head, and he goes ah, because he's afraid they're going to take a bite out of it. It's zany. That's what I use. That would be the proper word I would use to describe Cuphead. But we'll talk about that little later.
It sounds like it's kind of self-referential, which I always kind of love.
Yeah, and
when something is self-aware, that's a good thing, in my opinion.
Yeah, but I should say hi to the chat.
Yeah, do that.
All right. You probably hear my fan going on because my computer is plowing through. Okay.
Good.
Auto Dread, good evening, Aged Boomer, the Grand Gamer, that'd be a nice, and Troy Pacelli, the action figure ace. You know what, if you think about it, I think one of the reasons I got into gaming, because if you think about a lot of video games, especially back in the day, it's like you're playing an action figure and you're controlling them on your TV screen.
In a way, yeah, I kind of dig
it's
that.
It's kind of
the
same thing, yeah. Big Al, have a great show, Geezers. Thank you, Al. Thank you for popping in. Netter's Network, hi, sweetie. That's always nice to get a hi, sweetie, from Netter. And, she had a great stream last night from what I caught at the tail end. I wonder, Auto Dress says, I wonder what your favorite topic of the lineup is tonight. Perhaps Scream? Yeah, I'll talk a bit about Scream. I'm not going to give too many details on the movie. I don't know if Troy's ever going to want to do a Friday night thing on that, but...
A Friday night thing on what? I'm sorry, I missed. I was
Scream. I don't know. That was you probably want to watch them all first.
That might not be a bad idea. Yeah. I literally just got the first 4 Scream movies, and I've seen like 1 or 2 of them.
Yeah.
I may just binge them, and maybe we could do a chat about that.
I don't know if you're going to see part 5 or not, or if you're going to have time to see it, but it would be. I don't know. You may. I'm sure you'll see it at some point, but Zootopia, welcome. Mr. Matchstick, welcome. Joshua V, welcome. Go Team Ghost Planet Go, welcome. Auditor Dread, I think I already said that. And Daniel Heron, greetings, awesome people. You're awesome people.
You said Horizon Talker, right?
I'm just getting to him now. Hello, the chat. Just wanted to drop in and say hi. Still getting over
the Rona.
The what?
Yeah, the Rona.
The Rona. And sleeping lots extra. So I'm not staying in the chat tonight. I'll catch it on the replay.
Fair.
Okay, well, hope you're feeling better.
That's fair. Everybody make sure you subscribe to his channel, too. He's got good content.
Yeah, Cuphead is an old-fashioned cartoon that is very much a challenging type of Contra-side shooter game. Yeah, they call them run and guns. In fact, the first stage of Cuphead, it even lights up in the background, run and gun, and it's like, you'd better know what that means or just stop playing now.
Yeah.
Okay, but, cool. We didn't discuss a good old days topic tonight, but I had an idea, but I meant to tell you about it before we went live. Since our first topic is maybe M&Ms, do you want to talk about American chocolate confectionaries, probably what the Europeans would call swill, but we like to eat over here? I don't.
Okay, so this is interesting, right? So I've seen a couple videos about this, and I had heard this kind of vaguely and didn't think too much about it until I saw a video. Kind of like, why do Europeans think American chocolate tastes like vomit? If you ask somebody overseas, what does Hershey's chocolate, for example, taste like? They say, it tastes like vomit. Well, it turns out that there is this bitterness in American chocolate that is very much like that stomach acidy type of feeling that you get when you get sick. And I never noticed that before, because when you grow up with it, it's part of the chocolate flavor, right? You got the sweet, you got the chocolate, that little bit of bitterness in the background. You don't think too much about it. And that has to do with alkalis that are used in the processing of the cocoa and so forth. And I don't understand it all too much. Mm-hmm. It's just how we do it here, and they do it differently there. But it's true, if you taste like a Cadbury chocolate or some sort of a Swiss chocolate or something like that, very much more mild, very much more creamy. It doesn't have that sharpness to it that Hershey's does. I don't have any strong feelings one way or the other. I think they're both good, but I mean, that's like to me, it's like the difference between, chocolate ice cream, vanilla ice cream, and mint chocolate chip. I like them all, but yes, they're very different. And,
yeah.
It depends on your mood, but I always imagined as a kid, because Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory was fictional, right? Mm-hmm. I always imagined that it was Hershey's chocolate. So, I always wanted a Hershey bar when I was watching Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. Only to find out many years later that it was not only was it not Hershey's, but it was meant to be a competitor to Hershey, because it was Quaker Oats Company that was trying to start their own confection brand, which did not work and did not end up taking off. Yeah. And then many years later, another company ended up acquiring the rights to use the name for the branding of Wonka, and that's the same company that does Nerds and bottle caps and whatnot. And their chocolate is also altogether different. It doesn't taste like Hershey's chocolate. And interestingly enough, that particular Wonka bar is chocolate with little bits of graham cracker in it. So if you ever wondered what's in a Wonka bar, it's chocolate and graham cracker.
Used to be get those in Toys R Us's or late 90s. Oh,
yep.
Now I'm feeling old. Okay. But
that was the best way to get it. But you'd have that right next to, and then they'd have gobstoppers, which are really just, tiny jawbreakers, right?
They were my favorite candy. One of my
all of their
candies.
Other candies are non-chocolate. They were Nerds. They were, bottle caps. I can't remember what all they had.
Was Laffy Taffy also Wonka?
Yes, Laffy Taffy is, yes.
Yeah, so there are other things like that. But getting back to chocolate, though, what were our big chocolate brands? There was Nestle. Yep. Nestle Crunch, that's a big one.
So Nestle is, in the U.S., one of the chocolate companies that is most similar to like Cadbury overseas.
Yes.
Well, I mean, we have Cadbury here too. it's formulated a little different. But Cadbury and Nestle have that more like a European flavor chocolate.
It's probably why I like them.
Hershey.
Probably why I like them more, because
Sure.
I used to love Cadbury bars as a kid. I like the fruit and nut bar. You can still find those if you hunt around for them.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're made differently than the European counterparts, but I think they're still trying to maintain a similar flavor. Then there was also the Nestle. Now, you could never find plain Nestle bars anywhere.
No, you can only get Nestle Crisp, right?
Nestle Crunch, which I do like, but I also
Nestle
like
Crunch,
the plain
right.
bars, and those are hard to find. Sometimes you find
Yeah.
those, like if you get like a bag of Halloween candy, they'll give you that in the mix.
Sure.
But and then there's Hershey, a plain Hershey bar, it's all right. Some people like it more than others. I do get how people think it's kind of bitter. Hershey with almonds, though, I think the almonds lend themselves very well to it, and I think it actually.
I
tastes pretty
think so
good.
too.
Yeah.
You're right,
Yeah.
and I had actually forgotten how much I liked Hershey's with almonds until very recently.
I think with the
I don't think I
almonds,
could
it actually
handle
is a
the-
good fit.
I can't even handle the straight chocolate anymore. I don't have the stomach for sweets as much as I used to.
Well, that's
but
probably
you
a
put
good
those
thing.
almonds in there, it's a little bit better. Who was it that did the big? It was a big square that broke into 4 pieces, and it was chocolate with
Chunky.
Chunky. Who did that?
That was Nestle. I'm
That was
99%
Nestle, okay.
certain that was a Nestle, because you feel it's almost like the fruit and nut bar from Cadbury, but it's not.
Sure.
It's a very thick pieces. It's Nestle. The only places I see those in are Cracker Barrels when I go out
Really?
shopping now.
Okay.
Yeah, I think if you go into a Cracker Barrel, you'll be able to see a Chunky bar in there.
Okay. You ever heard
but-
of Bun Candy Bar?
Never heard of it.
It's mostly a regional type of thing.
Yeah.
We had them in. My uncle used to sell them at his marina in Ohio. We had them here in Chicago. I think that the company was based in the Chicago area, and where a lot of people may have heard about it was the Bozo Show. The company that did Bun Candy Bars used to donate large quantities of these candy bars to the Bozo Show, and it was one of the prizes for many years I think it was the second bucket of the grand prize game.
Really?
You get the Bun Candy Bar, and what it basically was is, think of it like a chocolate peanut, patty on a like a nougat type of bed. So it literally did look like a bun. It really did. And it came in a couple different flavors. There was a caramel flavor, a maple flavor. Maple actually was my favorite. And I think there was like a vanilla flavor, which I wasn't into as much. For whatever reason, the maple one was really yummy.
That sounds interesting.
I think it's still around. I just don't see it that often.
Yeah, it's weird the candy we grew up with. Like I think I've mentioned this before. Mars bars were a common thing over here, and they disappeared. In fact, I have a question: is Mars bars, is that M&M Mars, or is that something completely different?
Yes, M&M Mars is it's the same.
So part of me wonders if Snickers almond is actually, since that isn't that also
Yes.
M&M Mars Snickers. I bet they.
Actually, I don't know if Snickers is related to M&M
Maybe
Mars.
not. Okay,
but,
maybe not.
But you are correct that a Snickers almond is what a Mars bar used to be.
It.
Yeah.
Close to it, yeah. Whatchamacallit, remember those? In fact, I think that
I
was
remember
a Hershey's
when they
brand.
first came on the market. What are they? They're basically these solid bricks almost of
Yes.
crispy rice,
Yep.
dipped in chocolate with a little bit of caramel, right?
Caramel, I believe, was in there. I don't think there was any peanut butter. I could be wrong. I think it was just the. I think the idea was it's whatever, it's
Yeah.
yeah.
And I do remember the commercials, which were really funny about it, because they were doing like a take on the "Who's on First" kind of thing. What do you call that candy bar? Whatchamacallit? Yeah, I know, but what's its name? Whatchamacallit? What do you call it? Whatchamacallit? Yeah,
Funny.
I used to enjoy it. Do you remember marathon bars?
Well, it's weird you're saying marathon bars, because I was watching one of these British television shows, and apparently that was the name for Snickers bars over in England. Did you know that?
Yes. Here's the interesting thing. Two very different things. I'm talking about a very different candy.
Okay.
So what we called Mars bar, the closest analog they have is not their is not their marathon bar. It is something called Curly Whirly. Okay, it's a braided candy bar of caramel dipped in chocolate. Okay, and it looks like a braid of caramel strings that are dipped into chocolate. It's about a foot long, kind of thin. And that's the only way I can get something that's pretty much the same is to have Curly Whirlies imported. Big marathon bars. I just used to love those things, and the whole shtick on those in the commercials was it was a challenge to try and eat them fast. You can't eat them fast because they're so chewy. You know.
Oh.
But yeah, like a marathon bar over there is something completely different. Charleston Chew is about the same size, much thicker, and instead of it being caramel, it's a solid thing of marshmallow.
Like vanilla? Okay, yeah, it was like some white thing, yeah, like a vanilla thing.
Yeah, they actually had 3 different flavors. Vanilla, I guess. I think they just called it traditional or original. A chocolate marshmallow inside the chocolate. And I think there was a strawberry one, too.
Oh, interesting. Big Al likes 3 Musketeers and Raisinets.
I like... Raisinets are just... That's a movie to me. You know, if I go to a theater and I'm going to a movie, I want Raisinets.
Yeah, they're kind of the movie food. I like Goobers and Snowcaps as well, but Raisinets are very good.
I like Snowcaps too.
You ever make
I do like Goobers, but those are really Netters. Netter will get the Goobers, I'll get the Raisinets.
You ever make Bridge Mix?
What's that?
Bridge Mix is, I think you take like Raisinets and some kind of chocolate-covered almonds or peanuts, and it's basically you're taking different chocolate-covered things or like snow caps, and you're mixing them in a mix.
Oh.
I guess you eat them while you play bridge. Maybe you eat them while you play bridge. I don't know why it's called Bridge Mix, but yeah, I don't know.
Actually, I think that's the perfect place to pivot into our first story, because when I heard the title of this story, I thought that M&Ms was doing something like they were going to be real progressive and mix M&Ms with Skittles to give us S&Ms.
This is serious, man.
Turns out we're getting just the exact opposite of that, actually.
Oh.
This is that regressive progressiveness that they're pushing.
I had to work hard to find an article that was at least doing this with a straight face and not tearing them apart.
Well, that's why I sent you the second article. We'll get to that one, too.
Okay, now do y'all
that does put it in perspective.
Do you like the M&M's characters, the M&M characters?
I always have. You know, the yellow peanut M&M is... oh, shoot. What's that actor's name? Al's probably going to type it before I can remember what his name is. He played... he played J. Jonah Jameson. He's also played... what's his name? Commissioner Gordon.
Oh, I know who you're talking about. J.K. Simmons, yes.
J.K. Simmons, thank you. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he does the voice of the yellow M&M.
Progressive insurance, dude.
No. Was it Progressive?
State Farm.
And he was also in a really... What was the one that he did about the drummer? Slapshot or something like that?
Oh, it wasn't Slapshot, but it was something along those lines. In fact, I know I have that on my Voodoo.
Yeah.
But anyway,
I mean, he's in like everything. He's incredibly talented.
He's a great actor.
I was first exposed to him on The Closer. You know, the crime serial that Nanette was real into.
The Closer?
Yeah, The Closer. And but anyway, he does the voice of the yellow M&M, and I mean, you know, this goes back so far that you have fond memories of like that Christmas thing where
with Santa Claus, yeah,
and he's like, you know,
he does exist.
You know, I don't know. I've never met the guy. Oh, he does exist. They do exist.
And they both faint.
Santa? Because he passed out.
Yeah, and they introduce other characters.
And they've gotten kind of weird with it sometimes, too, because they've played around with the whole idea of people eating them, you know, and, you know, I'm in danger because this person wants to eat me and stuff. And they've walked a very fine line there of taste, no pun intended. but in a funny, self-referential kind of way. I've even found a video online theorizing what M&M character anatomy would actually be.
I don't know. They had they used to do, like, more recently, the last couple, like right before the pandemic hit, they did these because they would sell M&Ms in the movie theater, so they would have these things on, like, on the M&M characters, keep quiet during the movies. But they did this thing where they're like in a movie, like one of these big action movies, and this one guy hands the yellow one an envelope and says, "This is your mission." And he says, "Nope, this is an envelope."
This is an envelope. I know. I love that. I do remember that.
And it's just But of course, we under the "we can't have nice things" category.
I mean, and they even had, and this is another one of those where a commercial implied something that would make a great film or TV show or whatever, kind of like Geico did with when they tried to do the cavemen, which they implemented poorly. It's like you had the story right there and you screwed it up. And they did the same thing with, because they actually never did go to a TV show with these characters, but they had this whole bit where they're doing the whole parody of like a spy show, and they had them strapped to a rocket that's about to fire, and the bad guy's going to shoot him off into space, and they're going to be killed. And the thing is counting down, and then all of a sudden, ring, someone in the audience has their phone on, and they're like, "Excuse me, we're trying to, can you please?" And, the thing ends, and it's, why is it still counting down? Hello? I mean, I'm like, oh, this is so good. I want to see what happens. They totally could have done something with these characters.
They could have. I don't know what they'll be doing in the future with these characters, though. Should I just you want to get right into it?
Yeah, go ahead.
You want to get right into it? You can interrupt this article at any point, too, while I'm reading. But,
you think I'm not gonna anyway?
Well, I know, but... No, I had to find an article where the person in the article wasn't making fun of this. M&M's iconic characters, 6 different colored lentils, each with their own personality, have gotten a modern makeover for a quote-unquote more dynamic, progressive world, Mars said Thursday. That's the company. That's not a person, all right? Mm-hmm. Because there's never a person behind these decisions.
Right.
Okay. The redesign is focused on creating a sense of belonging and community, as well as spotlighting the characters' personalities rather than their gender. All right.
Whatever.
Let's keep moving. The most notable changes include the green M&M's redesign, which will exchange the white-heeled go-go boots she was given in 1997 for quote-unquote cool, laid-back sneakers to reflect her effortless confidence. Mars.
Okay, now I need to interrupt you. Okay, let me translate that for you. Given plain, ordinary gym shoes that match all the other damn characters, so that there's nothing that differentiates her from the others.
Yeah. Well, let me keep reading. Yeah, Mars had received...
I meant to interrupt you and you kept going. That's how I meant that to go.
Anyway, Mars had...
The lawyer still wears high heels.
Oh, okay. Well, that might be changing too. You never know.
What, the brown one? No, we're getting into the brown one.
Yeah, we're getting into that,
too. Okay. Mars had received criticism for the green M&M sexy characterization. The green M&M will also be better represented to reflect confidence and empowerment as a strong female and known for much more than her boots. And part of me is thinking, are there like guys out there that were fetishizing the green M&M character with their body pillows?
Okay.
Would you judge me if I had a green M&M body pillow that I went to bed with each night? I'm just...
There's a melts in your mouth joke that goes here, but I'm going to skip over that. No, I do have to point this out because I don't see any outlet making reference to this, and I think this is, talk about burying the lead on this. The whole shtick behind the green M&M when she was introduced as a character was, you have to go back a little bit to remember that there was this whole kind of fan imagining, urban legend, whatever, that the kids used to talk about where the green M&M had a special meaning, right? You eat the green M&M and it gets you all excited when you go out on your date and that kind of thing. It was like supposed to be an aphrodisiac, right? So that's why when the character was introduced in the commercials, the red M&M says to her, I wanted to ask you a question. Yeah, what? Is it true what they say about you? What? What do they say about me? You know, being green and all. Yeah, what do they say? That you're lime? And she goes, oh, that's so silly. And then she just kind of laughs it off because he wasn't going to say what we were all thinking when he said, is it true what they say about you? And that was part of the shtick, right? She's in the go-go boots. She's got the bare legs, right? She's the green M&M. She's got the big lashes. In all the panels where you see them all together, she's like in a sexy pose. Okay? That's intentional. That was part of who her character was. Now she's been made. Well, we can't emphasize her gender. We've got to have them all looking the same. And now she's going to be wearing slacks. They're going to cover those bare legs with white, and put her in gym shoes like all the male characters.
Well,
sensible shoes. She's
saying,
a woman with sensible shoes.
You know, the green M&M does not exist to look nice for you. All right. Can we move on now?
Is she not allowed some agency? Is she not allowed to look how she wants to look? That's my point. This is not progressive. This is absolutely regressive. It used to be, hey, she's a woman. She deserves to be able to dress however she wants. And just because she's dressing provocatively does not give you a right to, cosplay is not consent and all that kind of stuff. And blah, 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 blah.
It's almost like they don't know what they want. But anyway.
Look, I mean, if you were a second-wave feminist, you were all about this kind of thing. This is a woman being a woman because she chooses to be a woman. And if she wanted to wear sensible shoes, she'd have worn them. But she has every right to wear the go-go boots. And now, apparently, that's not a good thing. We're not allowed to do that anymore.
Moving on. The green M&M and the brown M&M will have a more friendly relationship, showcasing a force supporting women. The two characters' dynamic will have them throwing shine and not shade. Oh, the company said. The two characters have sometimes been at odds in advertisements, but
which two characters? I missed
Brown.
that.
Brown. The brown M&M, the one with the glasses. Maybe the brown one would say a snide comment or something. The two characters have sometimes been odds in advertisements, but they have also been seen as friends or more than friends in others, like this viral tweet from 2015
Here we go.
Showing the two holding hands on a beach. Just because two women are holding hands does not necessarily mean they're in a lesbian relationship, but, not that
True.
Whatever, it's a free country, right?
Well, but she's the brown M&M's problematic too, because they had one commercial where they were joking about everyone thinking that she was nude because she was brown, right? As if the candy coating is their clothing, and I'm just wearing a brown candy coating. I'm not nude.
Mars also added that the brown M&M's heels will be lowered to a professional heel height. Do you hear that,
there
Netter?
You go.
So her heels will be being changed.
So even she's losing the height on her heels. Maybe she gets a little bit of added consideration. She doesn't have to go to the gym shoes because she's got the special intersectionality of being the brown M&M. I don't know.
Anyway, listen, this is important. Okay?
This is really important stuff. You're right. This is where our focus should be when it comes to the chocolate industry. Am I right?
I don't know. I feel like going off in the chat, like someone in our chat's eating M&Ms right now, and it says, "You caused this."
Yeah.
You're supporting the orange M&M who was
as he puts a green one in his mouth and goes, "Die, bitch!" Arr!
I know. Oh man, I always hated the green one most of all. Because she's a lady, and I...
Oh, yeah, right, because I'm a misogynist, right?
I don't understand. The orange M&M, who has an anxious personality, will embrace his true self, worries and all, but the orange M&M shoelaces will now be tied to represent his cautious nature. According to Mars, the orange M&M is one of the most relatable characters with Generation Z, which is the most anxious generation.
No. Now, unfortunately, they say all these things, and they say why they're doing this, but what the actual outcome is, all of these characters are being made the same. The woman is being made to look like the man. They're all going to dress with the same shoes. The shoes are all going to be tied. We're going to lower the high heels. We're bringing everyone to the middle. This is a Harrison Bergeron situation. Let there be no diversity. Everyone's going to be equitably even.
But what I found most interesting isn't that sort of a slap at Gen Z? What they just said. They're the most anxious generation.
Everything about this is reductionary to everyone involved. Even the fictional characters are being reduced to, these elements that are completely ridiculous and meaningless. Nobody has any agency. You just have to conform. Shut up and conform. You can't be a woman. You've got to conform. You can't be a man. You have to conform. Everyone's got to be exactly the same.
The red M&M, who has shown bully tendencies in the past, will be more kind to his co-characters. What do you mean bully? What has he done?
I would not be surprised if we don't start seeing the same thing happening with Bert and Ernie. One is bullying and the other one is, always taking the flack, and that's not fair. And I mean,
this is an abusive relationship they have. Kids are watching this. Well, someone think of the kids.
Well, they are. They're trying to brainwash the kids into everyone's got to be milquetoasty. No one can have an opinion. No one can be different. Be the same. Don't ever pick on anybody. Don't ever be contrary to anybody about anything. If you are, that's fake news. Don't ever disagree with the establishment.
Mars will also include imagery of M&Ms of all shapes and sizes, moving away from only one body size, and it will remove the prefixes from the characters' names in order to focus on their personalities rather than their gender. Currently, only the brown M&M has a prefix, Ms. Brown, on the M&M website. The company hopes their changes
So what the hell are they going to call her, Ms. M&M? I mean, do they have no names now?
The company hopes their changes will show the importance of self-expression and power of community. Okay?
Okay, so what they need to do is they just got to stop coloring the M&Ms. They should all just be brown. Okay?
That's how they were in World War II, wasn't it? They were just brown. They were one color when they first started. We'll just go back to the way things were.
And what's even crazier, someone pointed out on Twitter, they put up the picture of all the M&Ms and saying, they are a literal rainbow and they're not diverse enough?
The marketing team on this one deserves an award. If my eyes could roll any harder, I would be looking behind my skull. I think you need to be taking this a little more seriously. Oh, I'm eating chocolate cake for my birthday. Does that count?
Happy birthday, Zootopia.
This M&M thing is super cringe.
Now I want cake.
And Go Team Ghost Planto says she's tired of the PC pussified world. Listen to me.
Actually, it sounds like they're de-pussifying because you can't be a woman now.
That's not what that word. Never mind.
Yeah, I know.
Pusillanimous. That's the actual word. It means cowardly, short for yeah. Never mind.
Yeah.
The war on. Okay. Yes. Anyways, what was I going to say?
But what it comes down to as we start to pivot on this is what they want you to focus on. And this is what they want you to gripe about. Because heaven forbid you should realize there's actual problems that we should be addressing in the chocolate industry.
Yeah. So let me go ahead. And Mars, Nestle, and Hershey face child slavery lawsuit in the U.S., and, of course, I'm seeing that headline. Oh, that's being rather sensationalistic. Oh, no, that kind of fits the part and parcel definition, I think, if anything does.
Did you like my thumbnail on this, where I put the M&Ms and problematic because she's sexy? Meanwhile, the kids on the Ivory Coasts picking the beans.
You know what I don't get, too, about different sizes? Are they going to actually make physical M&Ms in different sizes, or are they going to keep them all the same in the actual package?
I don't know, because all the damn M&Ms in the bag are the same size.
Mars, Nestle, and Hershey to face child slavery lawsuit in the United States. Yeah, this is a little disturbing. I'm not going to be able to read the whole thing, but I'll try and read you at least the minimum I can, because it's a lengthy article. It's worth reading. 8 children who claimed they were used as slave labor on cocoa plantations in Ivory Coast have launched legal action against the world's biggest chocolate companies. They accuse the corporations of aiding and abetting the illegal enslavement of thousands of children on cocoa farms in their supply chain. Nestle, Cargill, Barry Callebaut, Mars, Olam, Hershey, and Mondelez have been named as defendants in a lawsuit filed in Washington, D.C. by human rights firm International Rights Advocates on behalf of 8 former child slaves who say they were forced to work without pay on cocoa plantations in the West African country. The plaintiffs, all of whom are originally from Mali and are now adults, are seeking damages for forced labor and further compensation for unjust enrichment, negligent supervision, and intentional infliction of emotional distress. It is the first time that a class action of this kind has been filed against the cocoa industry in a United States court. Citing research by U.S. State Department, the International Labor Organization, and UNICEF, among others, the court documents allege the plaintiff's experience of child slavery is mirrored by that of thousands of other minors. Ivory Coast produces 45% of the global supply of cocoa. That's an awful lot. A core ingredient in chocolate. The production of cocoa in West Africa has long been linked to human rights abuses, structural poverty, and low pay and child labor. A central allegation of the lawsuit is that the defendants, despite not owning the cocoa farms in question, knowingly profited from the illegal work of children. According to the submissions, the defendants' contracted suppliers were able to provide lower prices than if they had employed adult workers with proper protective equipment. In the legal claim, all 8 plaintiffs describe being recruited in Mali through trickery and deception before being trafficked across the border to cocoa farms in Ivory Coast. There, they were forced to work, often for several years or more, with no pay, no travel documents, and no clear idea of where they were or how to get back to their families. That's really despicable.
Yep. And this comes down to, there is something to be said for capitalism. There's also something to be said for this kind of capitalism run amok, right? I mean, there's got to also be integrity, right? And we had an administration that talked about how they wanted to bring jobs back to the United States. Well, this is the problem. The reason these jobs leave the United States, well, there's a couple reasons, but one is cheap labor. Hey, we can, for all the talk that we do about slavery and how wrong slavery is and how evil slavery was and all the companies that were enriched by slavery, right? You're still buying products that are made from slavery, you dumbasses. Yeah. And you're talking about your ancestors being enslaved, but you have no problem enslaving someone else's kids by buying their chocolate, or you want renewable products. Talk about kids that are literally dying to mine the lithium for your batteries. It's let's talk
stuff.
about the price of green energy. You friggin' hypocrites.
And I think what's disturbing about this, though, is that this is obviously the sort of thing where they just, they look the other way, and now probably in the corporate scenes they either have to plead.
But we're good people. We
didn't know they were doing this over
We
there.
want to make sure that people have a living wage. Let's raise the minimum wage. Meanwhile, slave labor.
Meanwhile, many people, undocumented people crossing the border, and probably maybe being used to be paid differently over here than a normal American citizen.
Which is also a kind of slavery,
yeah.
But you're okay with that. But raise the minimum wage.
With it. Okay.
No, I don't mean you. I mean the people
other
that
people,
that talk about slavery.
We need standards for people in all countries in the world. And this is reminding me of something that would have happened 200 years ago.
Especially if you claim to be a globalist. Yeah. Oh, you think we should be a global market, and we should all bow down and raise our butts to the UN? Well, this is the stuff the UN lets happen.
It's funny you mention this, because when I'm looking at this article, I'm thinking keep in mind that these aren't American companies anymore; they're global companies, right?
Yep.
And you get to go what that comes with it. The globe, there are parts of the globe that are not very nice. and where bad things and abuses happen to people all the time. We, of course, have talked about that in the past, especially with a certain country.
But then you start getting into a bit of actual racism. Well, that's not our people. That's those people over there.
Yeah, this is human rights abuse. This is human rights abuse, and you do the virtue signaling about the M&Ms. Now, the M&M thing I just thought was stupid because it's like if they hadn't said anything, would I have even noticed?
Right.
People.
But what's even worse is how evil it is because they get you paying attention to. We're gonna take her and put her in gym shoes, and we're gonna virtue signal about all this. Meanwhile, we're enriching ourselves on the actual slave labor of children.
Yeah. Well, we'll see how this comes out.
But we're good people because we want to, make sure that our fictional characters are all properly represented.
Let's be blunt. I mean, you don't think Disney hands are dirty? How do you think some of the merchandise is made in those parks?
Agreed.
The
the plastic popcorn tub that people are standing in line and then getting upset about not being able to get.
Yeah, like on that, we talked about that article where the people were fighting over things in the parks for the what was it, the exclusive merchandise for the 50 years, I think it was 50 years.
Yeah,
whatever. Anyway, we'll keep an eye on this. M&M Mars, clean your own house first before lecturing the rest of us.
Yup.
Anyway,
they're gonna get roasted by the social media on this too, because there's already a lot of people going, "Oh, really? You're changing the green M&M. Meanwhile, slave labor."
Yeah,
tell us more about your virtue signal.
Who was complaining about the green M&M? People complain. Who complained? No one complained. I think they're making this up. It's an M&M. She has lashes and she wears go-go boots. Some women wear go-go boots. It doesn't mean anything.
Apparently in their world, women are not allowed to be feminine.
All right.
And then they start all their stuff. Well, she's not. She's not doing this for the male gaze. Well, how do you know why she's doing it? What are her motivations? Maybe she enjoys the male gaze. I'll tell you what. There's a lot of women that I've known in my life that sure as shit loved the male gaze. They dressed up specifically for it, and a lot of guys do the same.
Dan Harris says he complained. Okay, well, you're the one. You're the one. You're responsible for all this.
But like I said,
meanwhile he has a bunch of the. Meanwhile, he has a bunch of the little the green M&Ms like little.
Like I said, though, make sure you go out there and you buy a whole bunch of M&Ms, and you buy a whole bunch of Skittles, mix them together in a bowl, and have an S&M party.
Yeah, Auditor Dread, I think, was making a similar joke, yes. Microsoft to acquire Activision Blizzard. Oh, jeez, I'm saying it like that. That was big news this week. They say Disney is trying to conquer the world.
Yeah.
Those of you in the game, do you know what Activision is? They made Pitfall back in the day.
I was just gonna say that. It's like they made Pitfall for the Atari 2600.
There you go. And they make, of course, Call of Duty. They own Blizzard, which is responsible for games like Diablo and StarCraft, the World of Warcraft game, Overwatch.
Now that's interesting because I've heard of these games, even though I'm not a big gamer. So they must be, pretty big.
They own people that make games on PCs, on mobile, on consoles. Like the Tony Hawk series, that was them too. The skateboarding games. All right, so this was a huge deal. This was earlier this week. Everybody, I don't want to say crap their pants on the air. Oh, I just did. Never mind. With 3 billion
crap
people,
is okay. That's not a bad word.
I know.
I've said worse words myself on this.
I was going to say fudge rolls in the pants, but now this is just becoming a degenerate stream. Thank you, Troy. Can you not bring this down?
It's my fault. You say crap your pants, and it's my fault you did it.
Anyway, with 3 people actively playing games today and fueled by a new generation...
Did you say 3 people?
Sorry. With 3 billion people actively playing games
I was going to say, there's only 3 people playing. Who gives a crap?
And fueled by a new generation steeped in the joys of interactive entertainment, gaming is now the largest and fastest growing form of entertainment. Yes, everybody keeps saying that. Today, Microsoft Corp announced plans to acquire Activision Blizzard Incorporated, a leader in game development and interactive entertainment content publisher. This acquisition will accelerate the growth in Microsoft's gaming business across mobile, PC, console, and cloud, and will provide building blocks for the metaverse. You like the metaverse?
No, I'm not interested.
You're going to be forced in there, and you're not going to be allowed out again. And you're going to be you're going to have your own personal Zuckerberg bot walking around with you too. Okay.
Nope.
Anyway, when the transaction closes, Microsoft will become the world's third largest game company by revenue, behind Tencent and Sony. The planned acquisition includes iconic franchises from the Activision Blizzard and King studios like Warcraft, Diablo, Overwatch, Call of Duty, Candy Crush. Microsoft owns Candy Crush now.
I think Big Al plays that game.
Yeah, it's one of those free-to-play or free-to-pay, whatever they call it. In addition to global esports activities through Major League Gaming, the company has studios around the world with nearly 10,000 employees. Okay. And here we go. This is from the quote directly from the heads at Microsoft. Gaming is the most dynamic and exciting category in entertainment across all platforms today, and will play a key role in the development of metaverse platforms, says Satya Nadella, chairman and CEO of Microsoft. We're investing deeply in world-class content, community, and the cloud to usher in a new era of gaming that puts players and creators first and makes gaming safe, inclusive, and accessible to all. As we mentioned in recent months, Activision was running into trouble. Remember, a few months back? Yep. They had the whole, the environment, and they were being investigated by California state attorneys and whatnot, I guess, for apparently a culture of harassment, sexual harassment, and all this other stuff, which, again, I would please let it play out in courts before throwing anybody under the bus with this stuff. Make sure the guilty get what's coming to them. But I was worried that some people that maybe had nothing to do with it would get involved, would get caught up in it. But it looks like that Activision, I'm wondering if someone over there, they're just like, get rid of it to Microsoft, because if Microsoft owns it, it saves the company, and then they can basically disavow themselves of this activity because they were not running things when this activity was going on. What do you think?
Well, I don't know. I don't know too much about the inner workings of these particular companies, but I will say, in support of people that would be quick to jump to a conclusion, is you look at these companies that do a bunch of virtue signaling and make comments like, making a community for everyone to feel safe in, and blah 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 blah, and then you find out, oh, really, there might be something going on behind the scenes at your company, really, and you're preaching at us. You kind of go, yeah, I'm not surprised.
So Microsoft going to own all the game developers, publishers. You have to understand, the last year, I didn't bring this up on here because we didn't really talk about game stuff at that point. But I remember Bethesda. They bought Bethesda, and Bethesda owned a lot too. They were the makers of Doom, games like Doom and Quake and the Fallout series and Skyrim. They also owned Skyrim, so they were a big deal developer too that Microsoft scooped up. Now Microsoft scooped up Activision, and this is sort of reminding me of when Disney scooped up 20th Century Fox.
Yeah, and let me just say that this kind of stuff, as you see it more and more, it makes more and more of a mockery of our antitrust laws. I mean, what the hell is a monopoly now? I mean, you could argue, well, you can still create games. If you're another company, it's not preventing you from doing that. You can still have a video hosting company. This company isn't preventing you from doing that. Bull crap. When you completely corner the market, yeah, you can do it, but, I can also make lemonade and sell it out of my backyard. That doesn't mean that, Country Time doesn't have a monopoly. I'm kind of exaggerating that, but you know what I mean.
Country Time Lemonade. Yeah, I know what you mean. Okay. Activision Blizzard boss to leave when Xbox is done. When Xbox deal is done. The Microsoft deal is done. Xbox isn't buying it. It's never mind. Microsoft owns Xbox. That's not a great title. Anyway, Bobby Kotick. People don't like Bobby Kotick. They've hated him for years, and his reputation hasn't gotten better recently. Apparently, he was caught like threatening a woman's life or something.
That's always a good look.
Yeah, no, nobody's like this guy, and apparently he's one of these CEOs that gives himself big payouts each year while layoffs are going on.
Yeah.
And
That's
and
also
the investors don't like him. The investors don't like him. The employees don't like. Nobody likes this guy. Okay, so in case you somehow missed it, Microsoft is I mean, people were complaining on podcasts about Bobby Kotick like 10 years ago or even further back. They did not like this guy. Anyway, in case you somehow missed it, Microsoft is acquiring Activision Blizzard for around $70 billion. One question that everyone is still asking, though, is what's going to happen to Bobby Kotick, the CEO of Call of Duty and Warcraft giant, according to the story over at the Wall Street Journal. Kotick is expected to be shown the door as soon as the acquisition with Microsoft is complete. Yeah, they want him gone. The new
road, Jack, and don't you come back no more.
Okay. The news shared over on the Xbox website also seems to suggest that Activision Blizzard CEO won't be hanging around after the transaction is done, with Phil Spencer explaining once the deal closes, all of Activision Blizzard will report to him, the CEO of Microsoft Gaming. Okay, calls for Bobby Kotick step down have been circulating for some time now, following on from abuse claims, rocking Activision and employees staging a walkout after calling him to design. If Bobby exits, he's still expected to receive a significant payout. That's what we call golden parachutes. Yeah, so he'll be sipping Mai Tais for a long time, but we'll be rid of him in the company. Do we like this though? Microsoft, so far, I actually got into getting their Xbox consoles more recently because I actually like the way their system is set up, and I like the fact that things are backwards compatible from console to console. But I keep thinking that they have less than altruistic intentions in the long run. But we'll see. Apparently, Microsoft owns something called Game Pass. It's a subscription service you pay for on Xbox. And anything they own, you get for free. I mean, not for free. You get it with your subscription. You don't pay extra for it. It's like a Netflix of video games. Like you download it temporarily to your system, and then you can play the game. But you don't own it. You just pay the monthly fee, and you can play the games.
Yeah.
And I think
they're always say?
Own physical media.
Yeah.
I'll be honest with you, video games, in my opinion, have not been physical media for a while, mainly due to the fact that even if you buy a physical game cartridge, sometimes you have to download updates. Sometimes the whole game isn't even on the disc. You have to download the full game from the internet. It's just like a key you buy.
Which is fine. You can still back that up, and you can still own it physically on
a hard drive or a SD card or whatever.
Yeah.
Well, I know. It'd be a large on the Nintendo Switch uses.
I mean,
SD
I was
cards.
finding even, and I was, because of my sensibilities about owning physical media, I actually was kind of up in arms with the most recent iteration of The Sims, where I was like, oh, so I have to play it online now. Only to find out that the previous version was like that too, and when they made the switch and they weren't going to support it anymore, they put out a patch so that you had it on your hard drive, and that's it. We're not supporting it anymore, but you can still play it, and it's still yours to keep. So,
well, that's good.
So I was like, okay, yeah, I'm cool with that.
That happened to me with a Capcom release on the PlayStation 3. It was the first time this ever happened, where you had to actually connect online to play this re-release of the original Final Fight. And I'm like, I paid money for this game, Capcom. You should not be having it. I don't know if it was to fight piracy or whatever. And they didn't. I think they sent out a letter later apologizing because they should have disclosed that before it came out.
Yeah.
They were putting that on there, and they didn't. And that kind of got me. Capcom, I'm always hot and cold with. Like, they'll do something I love, like bring out some title that I didn't think they were going to bring out, and then like they do something like that, which pisses me off. So I've always been back and forth. But speaking of gaming companies, Sony shares tank over 12% after Microsoft and Activision's $68.7 billion.
Now, I didn't get a chance to actually read this article, and I was a little confused why Sony would take a hit over the Microsoft Activision thing.
Because Activision releases games on the PlayStation as well as the Xbox as well as the Switch.
Gotcha. Okay.
Call of Duty is a big deal game even now. Don't ask me why. The last one... Well, people play it online. People buy it to play the online games with their friends or their online friends and go on shooting matches. I don't know if they're playing it so much for the single-player mode anymore, especially when Sam Maggs is one of the writers, but we'll talk about that some other time. But Sony shares fell more than 12% in Tokyo on Wednesday after Microsoft announced plans to buy Activision. Sony Group stock moved 5% lower in Wednesday, USA Trading says, after declining 7% on Tuesday. Now, investors likely fear rising competition for Sony's PlayStation division as well as potential for Microsoft to pull some popular games from the Japanese entertainment giant's platforms. The worry is they'll pull Call of Duty, they'll pull Tony Hawk, the new Diablo game won't come out on Sony, and these used to be cross-platform games. Like, let's say you buy game consoles for, I'm just a big Call of Duty fan, and you're looking at, well, you can get it on Xbox, you can get it on PlayStation, then PlayStation says, well, yeah, but you can get that on, and we have these exclusive games we make in-house that you can't get on Xbox. And Microsoft might say the same thing, like you can get Halo on our system.
Well,
Sony will say you can get God of War on our system.
Is that what you expect them to do?
Not this generation. I think part of the problem is I've heard people talk about this, the independent gaming channels online. They've been saying that probably Activision already has deals in place with Sony and that some of these games still have to come out multi-platform. In fact, even since Microsoft bought Bethesda, like the new Doom game still has updates on PlayStation. If they like the Quake re-release that I was all excited about, that's a Bethesda game that came out on PlayStation as well as Nintendo Switch. So they're not, even though they own these companies, they're not keeping certain things exclusive. It could be partly because they're not ready to lose that revenue stream. Microsoft might say we can still make money off these other systems. Part of it might be that they can't do it right now because these companies they bought still had agreements with these other console manufacturers.
Well,
like, we agreed to bring out set amount of titles on your console for this generation or something. Or not to be exclusive. Yeah.
You hit on a point that, again, I don't know the industry as well as you do. I'm just thinking of my own general knowledge of business, and my thought would be, well, yeah, but wouldn't Microsoft still want to, if Activision had licensing, which is what you're basically talking about. If a game that they've created comes out on different consoles, that's a licensing agreement. Wouldn't Microsoft say, well, that's still revenue for us. Yeah, we'll continue to honor those licensing agreements. Maybe they'll renegotiate them, but I don't see them necessarily instantly going to, this is all ours now. Because
yeah, go ahead.
Because then they're just cutting off a possible revenue stream. And honestly, it would be just like the whole streaming versus theater thing all over again. We're not going to release it in theaters. We're just going to put it on our proprietary streaming service. And if you want to see it, you have to subscribe to us. And then nobody subscribes because, we're not doing that.
Yeah, interesting. There's also another theory that Game Pass, that this their subscription monthly fee, that, think about it, this is another way to compete with your competition. Let's say, hey, on Game Pass, you can get Call of Duty for free just by subscribing, whereas on PlayStation, you got to pay $60 for it. Or if you have an Xbox, let's say you don't want to buy it, you just want to play it for a little while, you can
from
do your
a
Game Pass
marketing
subscription.
standpoint, I see what you're saying. You're absolutely right. From a realistic, consumer point of view, I would raise the opposite. Yeah, I would rather pay $60 and own it than have it for, in quotes, free and then lose it if they ever decide to take it away or I stop subscribing on a monthly basis.
You would and I would, but would the majority of Call of Duty players? I don't know. That's an interesting question. It'd be interesting to...
Okay, I will retract what I said. I will temper it with this. It depends on what kind of a gamer you are.
Yeah.
See, I tend to be the type of gamer that I will always want to return to an old game that I played.
Yes.
I'm still going back and playing, like, Ultima 2 and 3 on a Commodore 64 once in a while, just 'cause,
Oh my goodness.
you know? Or, you know, I could see going back and playing, you know, the original Wolfenstein or, you know, Fort Apache or you know, some of these really old type games that I have to pull out an old 386 to play or something like that. Whereas my understanding, I don't understand it, but I accept that people like this exist, go, nah, after I play a game for a while, I don't want to ever play it again. I get tired of it. I want to go on to the newest thing. If that's the kind of gamer you are, then I totally understand you going, no, I don't want to buy this thing for $60. I'll just, you know, do the subscription thing and play it for as long as I'm interested, and then I'll just go on to something else later.
Well,
then
yeah,
it might be worthwhile for them, sure.
Yeah, well, it's kind of like back in the days when people used to own the old Nintendos. I mean, I would try to save up for a game, but other kids they wouldn't be able to afford that. They just they pay $5 at the rental store and rent it for a weekend, rent it for 2 days, and they'd have to bring it back. So that was one way people played. So I don't know. Another theory is that Microsoft may pull Call of Duty and make it on Game Pass exclusive at some point, but then they'll be like, hey, Sony, if you want to add Game Pass to your platform, that's perfectly okay. Do you understand? Same goes for Nintendo. Our subscription service can go on whatever console, but we still own the subscription service. Do you understand?
Yeah.
I remember reading somewhere that they thought that when Microsoft bought Bethesda, they thought they were doing it not to compete with Sony or Nintendo, but to compete with Steam on PC.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know what's going on. I guess we'll learn. I somehow feel... I'm worried at some point we're going to go to a console-less age. I don't know, where everything's going to be just like the way games are going to work is you're going to download them from a server on whatever base thing you have, and it's just not going to be the same anymore, but we'll see.
Yeah. I was also thinking about one of the, I mean, I guess it's not a recent game, but it was a console game. It was a PlayStation game called Resistance: Fall of Man. And I remember playing that until I got to the end and finished the game. And then I was like, okay, never have to play this again. It wasn't my game system anyway. So, you know, if I was going to own physical media on that one, I would have had to have gotten the game system too.
Sony, though, maybe prep for the future and bring back Resistance: Fall of Man, one of your top first-person shooters, just in case you end up not having Call of Duty anymore. You're going to need something to compete with.
I'll tell you what, that Resistance: Fall of Man was a lot of fun. I loved that game.
It was interesting. It was an alternative history where didn't aliens invade the Earth before World War II, I think, and then it was...
Well,
like
no. Didn't it take place in like the 50s? Wasn't it? It was like
it took place in the 50s, but it was like in an alternative history because I think the aliens had already taken over parts of Europe, and they were worried about them coming over into the United States now. Like they were slowly taking over the globe.
Okay, I just looked it up. It actually starts the alternate history starts in the 1900s.
Oh, I see. Okay.
It's like aliens arrive in Russia in 1951. Despite taking... Yeah, that's very, very interesting.
It's interesting. It's an interesting take on this. Instead of just having it be historical, maybe make
what I loved was fighting out these battles in, like, Britain, and literally, like, crossing the London Bridge and, having to take out a nest in the cathedral and everything. I'm like, holy cow, these are, like, real places. Bombed out artificial, alternate versions of them, but nonetheless.
They're getting better at doing like real life locations in these games too.
Yeah.
Like they're actually trying to map them out to be close to the original.
I will say this too, as far as games go. The line between game engines and, CG for film and TV is blurring.
It is.
And it's gotten to the point where with things like, what is that, Unreal Engine? I'm like, oh man, this is just a whole new level of something here,
No, they're doing a lot of great stuff now. Josh Reed points out Activision made Spider-Man games back in the 2000s. I'm surprised no one's pointed out. I remember they did. Yeah. It was weird because Sony had their own games division. They had the Spider-Man license, but they would loan out the Spider-Man license to Activision. They didn't make the games in-house. More recently, they've taken the Spider-Man license. They're not loaning it out anymore. For all I know, that was a prior thing from Stan Lee.
See, this is the problem. This has always been the problem with Marvel and Spider-Man in particular. When it comes to licensing, Spider-Man gets passed around like a cheap prostitute.
Now Sony owns him lock, stock, and barrel, and now Spider-Man shows up.
Yeah,
usually exclusively on
yeah, but they don't really. See, it's still technically owned by Marvel, and it's they have a very strong license.
Here's what
but
I think can
it's
happen.
not exclusive.
I think if Disney wants to
I mean, it
license
is.
out,
Excuse me, it is exclusive. My apologies. It is exclusive, but they don't actually own it. They lease it.
here's what I think happens. If you want to make a game just about Spider-Man, that has to be on a Sony platform, unless Sony decides not to. But I think if Disney wants to make an Avengers game with different characters, then you can have Spider-Man in that game with the other heroes. I think that's probably how it works. I don't know, though. But Aged Boomer, the news that Activision will be honoring current agreements for games on consoles, not on Xbox, but new agreements will most likely be exclusive to Microsoft. Yeah, probably, and it'll be up to them if they want to loan them out or not.
Yeah.
Okay, but moving on, back to, we're going to do a quick update on the G4.
As a side thing, that's exactly why there is a friggin' Spider-Verse. Just so that they can split it up as many ways as possible.
I heard someone online once say Spider-Man is sometimes the most inconsistent of the way superheroes are portrayed on film because he's all over the place. Think about all the cartoon series they've made too. I don't know. Okay, let's go. Let's go. G4 Frost.
I specified that this is a follow-up to last week's little rant that we did about this.
Yeah, we're not going to go into the whole thing. And G4 loses thousands of subscribers following X-Play host Indiana Black's sexism and gaming rant. She has two names.
Who is surprised?
What is this? Agree, real-world settings are very true to real-life locations. Oh, I did want to make a point what you were saying earlier about going to the real-life locations. PS4 Spider-Man New York City is fairly accurate to the city itself, at least parts of Manhattan that they did in there.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah.
Okay, so getting back to getting back to
say that again?
I'm drinking fruit punch. I don't know if that's messing me up. Okay. In what may be one of the most unsurprising backfires of all time, G4 has begun to bleed subscribers by thousands following X-Play host Indiana Frost Black's recent on-air rant against sexism in gaming, broaching the topic during a recent edition of the show's The Airing of Gaming Grievances segments. Black began her now infamous speech by asserting to viewers, in joining G4, I was ecstatic to be part of something I grew up watching as a child, but every time G4 is brought up in various channels, even in this YouTube channel, we have the chat in front of us. I can see without a doubt there will be backlash because I'm not as bangable as previous hosts. I'm not going to go into the rest because that was just a reiteration of what she did last week. Though G4 team undoubtedly expected the host's accusatory speech to generate some sort of positive engagement, as evidenced by their continued promotion of the segment on official channels, publicly available metrics reveal that said moment had delivered a detrimental blow to recently revived network's growth. According to data compiled by Social Blade, G4 has lost at least 6,000 YouTube subscribers since the airing of Black's rant around January 12th at a rate of nearly 1,000 per day. While this may seem insignificant in the face of 492,000 users who remain subscribed to G4, it should be noted that the channel's uploads receive an average of only 15,000 to 75,000 views, with content focusing on host personalities doing significantly less than reviews of well-known game titles, meaning they're not on there for the hosts. Thus, given the network's production values, including development costs of employee pay, the estimated $5,100 made from the channel in the last 30 days signals that such a loss of subscribers could be a serious setback to G4's desired future. So I guess nothing much to say on that.
This is where, if this was my stream, I would hit the button to play the Futurama meme. I'm shocked! Well, not that shocked.
The one you had with your Kelly Sue DeConnick.
Oh no, that one was. Oh wait, you're serious?
You're serious.
Let me laugh harder.
Okay, so I'm going to do a little bit of a share screen just to maybe give some in the chat a a brief thing on Cuphead. Give me 1 second here. Okay, are you seeing my screen?
What I'm seeing is your StreamYard. Oh, yeah. There we go.
All right.
I'm seeing your notes. I'm seeing your desktop. I'm seeing your porn folder. No, I'm kidding.
You're seeing the green with the green M&M on the front.
With the green M&M pictures, yeah.
Oh, you know, what is that rule? What's the name of the rule on the internet? Oh, I don't even
Oh, is it Rule 96 or something like that?
No.
Yeah. Whatever
Okay.
it is.
Cuphead, it's a video game boomer. Okay, just in case people don't know what it is. Okay, Cuphead, don't deal with the devil. This is a side-scrolling run-and-gun game, and the plot of it is it looks like one of those 1930s cartoons like Disney and Warner Brothers and everybody else was putting out at the time back in the day.
Right.
And, Cuphead decides he wants to win big at the casino, right? And then the owner of the casino, who is the devil himself, says, "Hey, you do what you do all in this round. You get all of my wealth. You get the casino all the wealth. If you do poorly, well, then I get your soul." And of course, his brother Mugman says, "Don't do it, Cuphead," and he rolls the dice anyway because look at the dollar signs, right?
Yeah.
In his eyes. And of course, he ends up Snake Eyes, and he says, "Now I have your soul," and they're all panicking, and he's saying, and they're begging the devil, "Can I please get out of this?" He says, "Well, I tell you what, I have a bunch of other debtors out there that need to give me their souls. You take care of them, and I'll give you your soul back." And then it's just a ridiculous premise, and then just an excuse to go around and start shooting all sorts of things. That's an angry carrot,
Right.
as a boss. That's some kind of thing, I think, inside the moon and UFOs and stuff. That's an angry flower. That's an evil clown boss. The entire game, though, it really does evoke the spirit of those old-fashioned cartoons.
Yeah.
And the animation level in this game is astounding. I'll say this, astounding.
It is pretty cool, yeah.
Everything was hand-painted cell animation. This is not...
Oh,
this isn't
really?
Yes, this isn't just pixel art. This was digitized into a computer, but this was art. They had original art assets for every level of the game. You don't do that. This was an independent-made project, and it looks excellent. And you can get it on PC. You can get it on every console now. I think it's funny. It even showed up on the Apple, on the Macintosh, and. But I love that. His name is King Dice. I guess he runs the casino, and he's attacking you with playing cards. But they're making an actual Netflix cartoon, which is what brings us present to this, and I'll read a bit from that now. Let me get out of this. But in case any of you are unfamiliar with Cuphead, if you own a modern console, it's available. And I do highly recommend you check it out. If you like Contra or Metal Slug, you might get a kick out of it. But let me bring my notes back up again.
So you think it's going to be a good show, or?
I am keeping my fingers crossed. I liked the trailer for the show from what I saw. Netflix has revealed its upcoming animated series based on Cuphead. Studio MDHR's popular 2017 run-and-gun game will be available to stream starting on February 18th of February 2022. Called The Cuphead Show, the series will consist of 12 episodes in total, all around 12 minutes each. The show has been directed by Adam Peloian and Clay Morrow, developed by Dave Wasson, and stars the following voice talent: True Valentino as Cuphead, Frank Todaro as Mugman, Johanna as Elder Kettle. Yeah, like their grandfather. I don't know if it's their grandfather. I thought it was he's a kettle. Luke Millington Drake as the devil, and of course he has a British accent, right?
Of course.
Greg Griffin as Ms. Chalice, and Wayne Brady as
on that point about British actors being cast as the bad guys.
Yeah.
Did you know that in Return of the Jedi there was a female an actress who was cast as one of the I think it was A-wing pilots, and all of her lines were overdubbed by a male actor, and in the run up to Rogue One, there was a lot of talk about, this is sexism and blah 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 and this and that, and people pointing out, no, it wasn't because she was a woman, it was because she was British, and only the Imperials had British accents, so we had to overdub her. It's not that we wanted to change her gender, it's just we had to quickly come up with another voice, and just grabbed any old buddy. It could have been another woman, could have been a man, could have been anything.
That became a tradition. I would assume too. You could argue Obi-Wan Kenobi had also had an English accent because he came from Coruscant, right? So,
yeah, but they were able to play up the whole thing about, British accent isn't just for villains; it's also for the old wise,
of course,
teacher type.
Yeah. So, that why that came about too. It goes back to Ben-Hur. They would cast the British as the Romans and the Americans as the Hebrews in those movies. That was because if you shot scenes over in England, you had to cast British actors because of the union. So they would typically put them in the villain roles because they would have American Hollywood actors in the leads. So that's how that all came about. But then it kind of stuck and it works, I guess. But
I like the fact that it's because of union things, not like we were trying to cast
British people as evil. Yes,
evil. Yeah, exactly.
Based on the award-winning video game that smashed onto the scene with gorgeous retro animation style, the Cuphead Show is a character-driven comedy series following the unique misadventures of lovable, impulsive scamp Cuphead and his cautious but easily swayed brother Mugman. The two scour their surreal home world of the Inkwell Isles in search of fun and adventure. They always have each other's back unless there's only one cookie left, in which case it's every cup for himself. There's a scene in the trailer where they're at a cookie factory and they take a cookie in hand each and they dunk it in their head because I guess there's milk in their cups on their head and they eat it, and I'm like, I don't even know what I'm supposed to think of that.
That is just weird, but I'm not having a problem with it. I think it's weird is good.
I think what this is supposed to be, and it looks like they're trying to emulate the animation style of the game. Obviously, it's not going to be quite up to par with that because that was a labor of love, but it still looks very good for a modern cartoon series.
Do you think they're going to retell that basic story of the game?
Well, the devil. I don't think so because I think that was for the game, but you never know. They may. These look like shorts. I'm just reading 12-minute shorts. I think that these are being done like they're actually trying to make these like the old Disney and Warner Brothers.
That's what I was thinking too.
Or the Fleischer cartoons from back in the day.
Yeah.
It looks like a lot of fun. It has a very 1930s aesthetic, and of course, the devil as the bad guy. Who else are you going to pick, right? That's like the number one, right? So it looks fun to me. And apparently, I think one of the guys in charge of this worked on some of those Mickey Mouse shorts Disney put out a few years back. I don't know if you saw those at all.
No,
they were very odd. They were actually pretty good. They were like a new take on the old Mickey Mouse cartoons, but the humor was kind of baudy in them for modern Disney. I was surprised. They're on YouTube. I should send you one and see what.
But that's also very in keeping with those old original cartoons.
They didn't have Donald Duck getting into a temper tantrum, at least not in the ones I saw. But he had more of a very snide like I've had enough personality. Like all his anger was spent up. That's where they went with him on the new things. But they were pretty good. And if they have some of the same people working on this, it might be a good modern cartoon. So there you go. And I think it might be good. So not everything is bad on here. We can point out good things. We like Cuphead. Speaking of things we maybe don't like, BBC.
Yeah, this is an interesting one.
BBC
Did I forget to drop the other article? Oh no, I guess I should have put those two together.
I can go to the Doctor Who one after this if you'd like.
Okay.
Go to the end. Okay.
Yeah, maybe.
All
but
right.
So just a little bit of background for our listeners who are not over in the UK and don't really know how the BBC operates over there. BBC is their television system is very different from ours. Imagine if ABC, NBC, and CBS were all one company, and it was kind of like public broadcasting system. Okay, that's how it is over in the UK. So your tax dollars are paying for the network television, and you draw your own conclusion about a state, run, state-funded, media outlet. But they have 3 channels of BBC over there, or at least they did. I don't know if they still do. Plus radio, plus other, entertainment venues, all paid for by a licensing fee that is mandatory. It's compulsory. You must pay this licensing fee in order to consume your television at all, even though there is, at least one other network over there that's not BBC. But, put that aside, okay? Let's just focus on this. And if you don't like it, well, that's too bad. You don't like that it's going woke. You don't like that it's becoming propagandistic. Doesn't matter. You still got to pay your license if you want to watch it. And you just go, then I won't watch. And there's been, all this debate about, well, could the Crown then send the police to come and arrest you for not paying your, licensing fee, and whatnot. Well,
so you're streaming Netflix on your TV in your house and not paying the license fee, and the officer says, "What's all this then?"
Well, and this is where you start getting into this whole idea about using a VPN, right? I mean, if you subscribe to Netflix and there's a particular movie that Netflix doesn't carry in the UK, you can always see if Netflix has it over in the US and then watch it. Well, they're basically been doing the same thing. Well, I'll watch BBC, but I'll just tell them that I'm, over there in Wales watching the BBC.
I didn't realize that, but basically the article says so they say they can just pretend like they're living somewhere else when they're not living there with this VPN thing. Interesting.
Well, that's what's happening with the internet, and governments tend to be decades out of date when it comes to technology and laws, related thereof. But now these things are starting to catch up with them. And go ahead, get into the article there.
All right, hold on. Let me read. Sorry, I'm out of sorts tonight. The BBC was last night on the brink of a war with the government after Culture Secretary Nadine Dorries hit the corporation with a 2-year license fee freeze as her allies warned that the days of state-run television are over. Tense negotiations between the government and the BBC over the cost of annual fee until the end of 2027 have concluded, with Ms. Dorries deciding to hold the license at $159 for the next 2 years. Officials calculate due to the inflation currently running at 5.1%, the corporation will have to find savings of more than $2 billion over the next 6 years. However, Ms. Dorries is also considering pegging future fee increases below inflation between 2024 and the end of current royal charter on December 31st, 2027, meaning the savings the BBC must make could end up being even higher. So this was a way to cut their funding without cutting the fee, it sounds. At the point, if the Conservatives are still in power, the license fee is likely to be replaced by a new funding model which reflects the growing domination of subscription services such as Netflix and Amazon Prime. The move comes after a series of rows with ministers over corporations' alleged left-wing bias, you think? Senior government figures were last week's incensed over the coverage of Boris Johnson's apology to MPs over the Downing Street lockdown party, complaining it, quote-unquote, feels like the BBC isn't going to stop until he's gone. License fee currently earns the corporation $3.2 billion a year. BBC executives who had called for the cost to increase in line with inflation, as in previous years, told ministers it is unfair to conflate perceptions of bias with funding arrangements. They argued that freezing the license fee will damage the BBC's ability to produce hit programs such as Line of Duty and David Attenborough's Nature series. Last year, BBC chairman Richard Sharp said the cost of some of the corporation's biggest shows has doubled, while drama costs alone have risen by around 35%. The government thinks that... Go ahead.
I was going to say, this is really all of the same arguments that people make over here in the U.S. about public television, and this whole idea that we have to have public television because otherwise you won't have your educational television and you won't have these news channels and this and that and the other, and everyone's going, yeah, but unfortunately those things have all become propaganda for the government and they've become indoctrination for our children, and there is no reason we should be supporting that. If you think it's worthwhile, then make it commercially viable or just go away.
Well, think about our favorite show, Doctor Who. Doctor Who was never as preachy as it is now. It was supposed to just be an entertaining show.
Well, let's be fair.
There was light preaching.
Well, no. I wasn't even going to go there. I was going to say the original intent for Doctor Who was that it was going to be educational. They were going to be using it as a conduit to teach history. The problem with that is it only lasted a couple episodes, and then they're like, screw it. This is just a sci-fi show, and it's fun, and it's for kids, entertaining, and, that's it.
Yeah, I don't know.
But, yeah.
I don't know. I've had some issues with the BBC for a while. I mean, I still watch British programming now. I'm watching All Creatures Great and Small. That's the new series the revival series they've been doing of that, which is pretty good actually. But government thinks an inflation-linked rise is indefensible at a time when households are facing an intense cost of living squeeze due to energy price rises and tax hikes. Well, it sounds like this current government is looking out for the average citizen.
Well, and that's the other side, too. It's like, it's one thing if my tax dollars are paying for, necessities. Television ain't one. And this is what Nanette has always said when she would call into our cable company and say, you've raised the prices again. Why? I don't want to pay that. If you can't come up with a way to lower my price, I will drop you.
Yep.
And she'd always get the pushback, and her response was always, just understand, I don't need this to live. I don't need it that badly. You have priced yourself out of my market, and I will drop you. Okay? Okay, fine. Cancel my subscription. Oh, let me put you through to sales, and we'll get somebody. Well, eventually it was like, look, we got to the point where you could give it to us for free, and we don't want it anymore. We're done.
Well, cable, that's a whole nother mess over here. So satellite. I mean,
but it's a business model that's appropriate and applies to this, and it makes a great analogy. And now they're basically saying, look, we're going to change. We have to start thinking in terms of commercial viability. We're going to have to change to a streaming service where literally, if you want our service, you will pay a subscription fee. Perfect. There's no reason that every citizen in the UK should have to pay for it. Only the ones that want it.
But if you have to pay a subscription fee, then the content has to become more quality.
Then you have to listen when people say, I like this or I don't. I don't like this. I'm dropping my subscription. So you better start improving it. You better stop with the BS. And this is the problem with these socialists that are taking over these entertainment avenues. They turn it into their own personal slush fund, and they make up whatever they want because screw it. We own it. Now we can do whatever we want. Well, you can only do whatever you want until people stop paying for it at all. And now you're no longer viable. You no longer have an audience to preach to. Congratulations.
Yeah. Before we move on to the next article, I did want to address a question about Cuphead in the chat. I missed it the first time around.
Oh.
What audience is it being directed at? The same audience as, I think, the game. It looks like the same kind of material, like that old school cartoon that's a little edgy because it was made back in the day.
Yeah.
But E10, I think 10 and up. That's probably what they're going for. But I'm sure adults.
But that's a fair question. I would have asked the same question if I didn't know more about it.
I don't think it's any worse than what you would have seen back in the maybe with some of the so that you can't get away with now.
I'm sure they're going to get away from the minstrel jokes and the stuff
nothing like that. Yeah, that's
nothing too Betty Boopsy or anything like that.
Yeah, but plus a lot of the but it's anyway. I'm talking about Cuphead again because I like what I've seen. Okay, speaking of things I used to like and maybe I'll like again, maybe not. I don't know if I like this or not. Doctor Who rumor: David Tennant cast as the next Doctor, says BBC source. This is a rumor. Now, as many of you may recall, my big wild prediction for 2022 was that by the end of the year we would hear the announcement that Doctor Who was getting a hard reboot. If this happens, it is not getting a hard reboot. So I'll read this article.
Well, hold off on that caveat, but go ahead and read the article.
All right. According to rumors, David Tennant, who played the 10th Doctor between 2005 and 2010, has been cast as the next Doctor. And if the circulating rumors are to be believed, it would make the Scottish actor the first and only actor to play two incarnations of the Time Lord.
I would argue he already is, but okay, go on.
The tip-off was spotted on a Facebook fan page in which users suggested a credible BBC source had leaked the information. The user claimed this source is the same person who leaked the casting of Sacha Dhawan as the Doctor's nemesis, the Master in Series 12. At first it may seem unlikely, but it starts to make more sense the more you think about it. The next series of the show will return writer Russell T. Davies, who worked with Tennant during the stint as the Doctor, take over as showrunner once more. Next year is also the 60th anniversary of the show, and although Tennant returned as the 10th Doctor in the 50th anniversary, this would go some way to topping that special. There's also no denying that the show is suffering in terms of viewing figures. The New Year's special pulled in its worst ratings since the Sci-Fi Show rebooted 17 years ago. So who better to catapult those poor ratings back and get people interested in the show than the man with the highest average viewers since the show was brought back? And although the Doctor appears to have no control over their appearance, let's not forget the 10th Doctor somehow managed to regenerate back into himself. The 12th Doctor subconsciously regenerated into a person in his past, and even the Master chose to regenerate into a younger man. So even if that still seems improbable, Paul McGann's 8th Doctor is able to choose his next regeneration with a little help from the Sisterhood of Khan.
Yep.
And in classic Tom Baker, in classic Tom Baker serial Destiny of the Daleks, his Gallifreyan companion Romana was able to select her new body following a regeneration as well.
Yep. And in fact, we've even seen. I don't think you mentioned it. I don't think the article said it, but there was even talk about why he looked when he became the Capaldi Doctor. Why did he look like someone else that he had met in the past? That was played by
Roman he saved. Remember, the Roman and his family was in trouble.
And he even looks and he says, "Why this face?" You know, and there was an interesting explanation for why he would choose that in story. I thought that was actually kind of brilliant, and it was a lot of people drew the correlation between that, an actor playing a previous role and then playing the Doctor and then acknowledging that he looked like that person, to Romana choosing an appearance that was one that Lalla Ward had played earlier, in an earlier serial. So yeah, it's obviously, even River's song, I'm trying to concentrate on a dress size, and stuff like that.
I hate. Oh.
What? You're having a struggle with this one.
I hated that scene. You're reminding me of stuff I hated from the. Who the heck was the guy that replaced Davies again?
Oh,
the
Moffat.
Showrunner. That's
Stephen
an example
Moffat.
of something from the Moffat era that drove me crazy. The stupid humor. Like, I'm trying to concentrate on a dress size, and I'm like, can we just have like stuff with the Daleks and the Cybermen and intricate plots where they're trying to not this nonsense.
In fairness, that was pretty benign, because again, that does go back to all of these examples that we're talking about.
I know it goes back. It's just trying to be cute, and I'm not looking for that. Never mind. See, the problem with me is I realize too, I'm an old school Doctor Who fan, but I'm not the old school fan they're thinking of when they're even trying something like this. I'm thinking back to Tom Baker, Peter Davidson era.
I don't know. There was a great deal of humor in the Tom Baker era. He had some snappy one-liners.
There was, but I'm thinking more maybe like
his
final season, the Peter Davidson run, when it got a little more serious. Because now it's all. Now David Tennant, of course, was the most popular Doctor of the current batch. And I think they're trying to save the show by trying to get the people that liked him back to watching the show. Will bring him back as the Doctor. In what capacity, I don't know. For all I know, maybe they could do a hard reboot with him as Doctor Number 1. And just have him play. But that doesn't make any sense to me.
That doesn't.
Would he be playing the same? Nothing makes any sense about this show.
At the same time, though, he could be... It could be... I guess this wouldn't be a soft reboot either. It could be a medium reboot. One of the theories that I've heard some people point out is, maybe this, goes back to, I don't want to leave. Well, I never left, kind of a thing. But then the argument is, well, would that overwrite Matthew Smith's and Peter Capaldi's eras? I don't know. So it depends. First, we're making the assumption that this rumor turns out to be credible and accurate. And then secondly, if it is, what is the story intent of doing this? And my thought on that is, if it isn't a good story that undoes all of the hard rebooting of canon, it's not going to matter and nobody's going to care. That's the problem. This whole, Timeless Child has pretty much ruined Doctor Who for all of the original Doctor Who fans.
And that's
why the series has died. Yeah.
They I don't know who was in charge of that, if that was Chibs or someone else on the writing staff, but they did that as a thumb in the eye to the people, the longtime fans.
And it
I don't
worked,
know why
and
they did
we
it.
left.
Yeah. So, I don't know if this is going to fix anything. Davies has a lot to fix on his hands. I don't know how
A lot of people are pointing out that Davies, hey, he's kind of a big SJW too, so maybe he's not interested in fixing this. On the other hand, a lot of people are also pointing out he's still a good writer. He still knows how to do the SJW thing without pissing people off. But beyond that, there's also the Sony angle here too. Getting back to Sony. Sony is now going to be working with BBC. They basically are going to be overseeing and funding Doctor Who going forward. Therefore, it's got to be commercially viable. This is the same company that brought you, Ghostbusters Afterlife and Spider-Man No Way Home and on, the things that people have been touting and saying these things haven't been woke, and they've been very, very successful, and they've actually been doing better in that regard than Disney has. So could they do the same for Doctor Who? Only time will tell. Let's just keep our fingers crossed.
I've mentioned this in the past, so have you, about the fact that we sometimes think the woke stuff is being used to cover up bad, talentless writing in a lot of these shows. Like, beyond the fact that, you had a lot of the cringy stuff on the Jodie Whittaker era, it was also just the fact that it just wasn't very compelling writing-wise.
I would basically compare these SJWs coming in, taking over franchises, and doing whatever the fuck they want with them, to somebody who becomes a manager at a Kinko's and then spends all their time making personal photocopies. That's basically what these people are doing.
Yeah, they're collecting.
And when the company finds out, they get fired.
All right, so I'll see what happens. It's an interesting rumor. I'm sure it would be great to see David Tennant again as the Doctor. But again, only if it's done in such a way that makes us want to come back to Doctor Who. If it's not, then what it actually does is make it worse. It tarnishes his time. Everything that we loved about 2006 on, The whole thing with the fact they destroyed the Time Lords again after they went to a lot of trouble during the Matt Smith era to bring them back.
Yeah.
To not have them be exterminated. And then what happens? They kill them off again. And it's like they're doing it. And everyone has to have basically a shit-eating grin on their face. Oh, it's wonderful, No.
And then they use these wisps of canon to try and justify it. Well, the Time Lords always were villainous, so it's okay.
No, here's the thing.
Yes, they were interesting. They had their evil side. They were sometimes the antagonist. They were sometimes the protagonist. It makes for interesting, nuanced story.
They weren't good or evil. They had good and evil members. When they're originally introduced, they seemed to be very about law and order. That's why they didn't like the Doctor taking the TARDIS and interfering in things. I think, what was their introduction? That was the finale of the Troughton era, the War Games. Remember that?
Right. Yep.
Oh, that was brilliant, because that all starts out that there's basically a Time Lord aiding this alien race called the Warlords and giving them TARDISes.
Yeah.
Basically making TARDISes for them, and they're kidnapping humans from different periods of war in human history and having them fight each other to create a perfect warrior to be used as a peacekeeping device in the universe. And of course, the second Doctor is doing his best to stop this, and he eventually it gets to be too overwhelming for him. So what does he have to do? He has to call the Time Lords, and then he says, "We have to get out of here now.
Yeah.
And he says, well, what do you mean? Why? Well, it's because you mean,
Yeah.
I borrowed one of their time machines, the TARDIS. Says, you mean you stole it? Well, I borrowed it.
Were you planning to give it back? No, then you stole it.
And he's trying to get away, and the Time Lords are doing things to keep him from leaving.
Yeah.
And you get to see them putting the Warlords on trial, and they're not liking the Warlords' attitude during the trial, and they basically, his punishment is, we're going to make it so you never existed. They had something which was rather brutal, I thought. And they vanished. And with the Doctor, they were angry at him too. But he was explaining, I've fought creatures that would have destroyed all living life. Like he's showing like the Daleks and the Cybermen on the board, and
Right.
And the Time Lords decide we're gonna change your face, and we're gonna change your appearance, and we're gonna strand you on Earth since you like the humans so much. And that was it. And then all throughout the Pertwee era, he's trying to get the TARDIS working again, and that would cause mishaps too. And
right,
good stuff back in the day, and I do miss it. But we'll see if they can fix Doctor Who. I don't know. If anyone can do it, it'd be Davies, because he's the one who brought it back.
True, and if anyone could play the Doctor, it would be...
It's going to be Tennant.
Tennant, yeah, that's true.
I don't know.
Although I would argue that Capaldi could have done it too if he'd have had, I'll tell you what, that would have been a great combination. If it had been Russell T Davies with Peter Capaldi, that would have been a new golden age.
Capaldi was a great Doctor. Matt Smith, though, he was a great Doctor too.
He was great. Sure,
I didn't like some of his episodes, though. But
I did feel like a lot of his stories were really written for David Tennant.
Probably, yeah.
And it's,
So we'll see how this goes. They have to undo the mess that was made under Chips, so we'll see what happens.
Yep.
This is a good one. Crypto group shamed for spending $3 million on Dune book.
I read this and I laughed. I'm like, the fuck?
Acquired a copyright to produce NFTs. I'm telling you, dude. I'm telling you, chat, anyone listening, 20,000 up front. I got a guy who's getting on this NFTs. The spice must not be flowing for members of an NFT non-fungible token group that spent $3 million on a rare book detailing filmmaker Alejandro Jodorowsky's failed adaptation of Frank Herbert's epic science fiction novel Dune. The book was offered in a Christie's Paris sale on 22nd November with an estimated 25,000 to 35,000 euro and bought more than 100 times its low estimate by an anonymous group identified as Spice DAQ, whose members mistakenly believe that the purchase of this book, a physical item, granted them the copyright to the book, which they intended to splice and sell as NFTs before burning the physical copy. Oh my! Wait a minute. So they were gonna. So is this like a rare book? Only one copy exists, or I don't know.
Not sure. Maybe
was it his original book for the what he would have done for the movie, like his own sketches or something, or I don't know. The group stated that its goal is to issue a collection of NFTs that are technically innovative and culturally disruptive, a first of its kind, and that the burning the book would be an incredible marketing stunt which could be recorded on video, with the video itself sold as an NFT. Oh... Spice DAO also claimed that it would digitize and make the book public, that it would produce an original animated series based on the book for a streaming service, and that it would support derivative projects. For starters, that's not going to happen. Warner Brothers would put a stop to that, right?
Yeah.
However,
I feel like we need that. That's not how this works. That's not how any of this works.
However, the internet was quick to point out that the book is already available to view online for free, and that the purchase does not grant Spice DAO the rights to produce works based on its content. An NFT series, for example, would likely be met with a lawsuit from the actual copyright holders, currently by the Herbert Limited Partnership.
Yep.
Around 10 copies of the book, in which the French-Chilean director compiled his concept artwork and notes for the film, are believed to exist. The book itself, widely known after the release of the 2013 documentary Jodorowsky's Dune, a film that chronicles the ambition but ill-fated production, which was scrapped once it was deemed too long and too expensive. In the mid-1970s, Jodorowsky envisioned a 14-hour film produced in collaboration with Herbert, who released the novel in 1965. Salvador Dali was famously billed to act in the film, requesting a fee of $100,000 per hour, with Pink Floyd and others set to produce the soundtrack. Oh, I need to watch this documentary. I've seen the trailer for it.
I've also seen some commentaries that people are really glad this didn't exist. But all I can think is a Dune film where Pink Floyd did the soundtrack, and
that would have been interesting.
Oh yes, please.
You know what was funny? I think Jodorowsky even said it in one scene from the trailer. Dune, I should read that book someday. Like, he didn't read the book when he was coming up with all this stuff.
Oh, dear.
Before the French-Canadian director Denis Villeneuve released his well-received blockbuster adaptation novel last year, Dune was adapted by David Lynch. Yes, I know. We all know this.
Yes.
So, what do you think? Christie's marked the book as one of the most legendary objects in the history of science fiction, cinema, and pop culture, precious relic of a cursed project that has inspired generations, which brought together some of the greatest artists of Jodorowsky's time. Previous copies, which were circulated by producers and directors in the 1970s, have sold for around $25,000. That's considerably lower than $3 million.
So, you asked me earlier in the stream what I thought about the metaverse. This is what I think about the metaverse.
Oh, NFTs are supposed to be a big part of the metaverse, actually.
And it's not going to work. Okay? People desperately want to believe that we can live in the Matrix and that we could be post-humanist. But the fact is, people are living in fantasy world here. The same people that believe socialism can work, okay, believe this kind of stuff can work. Look, the only way you could be the only one owning something is if you own the physical thing. Okay, you will never own anything if you create a digital copy and just tell everybody, this is the only one you can have and I own it. It doesn't work that way, Pally.
They were going to burn the physical version, right? And it was going to be...
If someone were to burn the Mona Lisa today, I'm sorry, there's so many digital copies and so many prints of it out there. Nobody's going to, well, I mean, you're going to have art purists that are going to be all upset about it and whatnot. But by and large, it's not like you wipe out the Mona Lisa, you know?
And where do they get the idea they'd be able to make an animated series out of this thing?
It's, again, completely misunderstanding the basic concepts of intellectual property law. That's, yeah... It's kind of like trying to decide to make a movie when you've never read the book.
Yeah.
Bless you, Netter.
Or to review a movie. Anyway, I was going to say, or to make a judgment on a movie before seeing it, like what some people might have been doing about Scream recently. Scream 2020. Anything left to say on the Dune, though? The Dune NFT?
No.
You want to invest in that? They're taking investors right now.
Nope, absolutely not. And I love the fact that this is also a book that is absolutely available, out on the internet digitally already. So it's like, I don't give a frick what stupid rich people are doing, wasting their money on. Let them have it.
Scream 2022's box office proves horror is Disney's biggest competition. I want to look up real quick if you give me a minute. I'm kind of wondering where it's at this weekend. This is from last weekend. No, Scream 2022. The whole title of the new Scream movie is just called Scream. It's a riff on the fact that the new Halloween was just called Halloween.
Yes.
But it's sort of making fun of that. Instead of calling it Scream 5, we're going to just call it Scream because that's how we do things in the modern day. But
right.
I don't know. Let me click on news real quick. I did catch it this week. I did enjoy it. Even though maybe in some ways actually I don't want to say anything about it for people who are going to go see it. Scream filmmakers let a character. Okay, come on. Okay, well I can't seem to find. No Way Home looks like to reclaim box office. Okay, but did beat it last weekend. So let me go ahead and read from last weekend. Scream 2022's opening weekend theatrical earnings have been unprecedentedly successful, proving... And I just lost my place. How your teeth feeling? Good?
Yeah.
Okay, hold on. All
Tell
right.
the audience about that, though, so they have no idea what you're talking about.
Troy had his teeth cleaned recently, so.
I was just telling them, that I had a really good trip to the dentist, and I'm feeling pretty good about it because, I went in with a lot of anxiety, and I feel better today than I did yesterday.
Gotcha. Scream 2022's opening theatrical earnings have been unprecedentedly successful, proving the horror genre is Disney's biggest competition in the box office. While many movies and studios have faced trouble to gain audience attendance amidst the pandemic, Disney franchise movies have reliably succeeded. Look no further than Spider-Man No Way Home, which, again, is not really a Disney movie.
Right.
Let's move on. Which soared at the box office and smashed records to earn over $1 billion. Aside from a few franchise, action, and sci-fi films from Sony Universal, Disney has long held the crown for box office hauls, and there's still one genre that threatens its reign: horror, as proven by Scream 2022, finally being the movie to dethrone No Way Home in weekend earnings since December 17th. Paramount's Scream 2022 was filled with Easter eggs to classic slasher movies and references to past films in the franchise, making it a horror fan's delight. While continued the trend of Scream's meta-commentary on horror rules, sequels, fandoms, and its own existence as a satirical slasher revival, Scream 5 also cleverly paved the way for a new generation of characters. I'm not going to read any more from that part because it kind of spoils the movie a bit. But
Sure.
I'll go on. Outside of art house films, movies under major directors, and blockbuster projects, horror movies and franchises like Scream have been some of the only pandemic-era releases to give Disney a run for its money at the box office. While none have been powerful enough to overtake an event movie with a broad audience like Spider-Man No Way Home, Scream 2022's successful opening weekend has proved horror a worthy adversary to Disney's box office crown when paired with the surprisingly triumphant theatrical runs of its major 2022 horror movies like Halloween Kills, A Quiet Place Part 2, and The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It. Scream 2022's flourishing attendance is a good sign for horror movies pushing back at Disney's box office monopoly. There's a lot of interesting stuff I'm going to be pointing out about this, but I want to make a point too that you know who used to own the Scream franchise, or who used to distribute it?
No.
Dimension Films,
Okay.
which was owned by Harvey Weinstein when he was
Yeah.
partnered with Disney with Miramax. Disney technically were the ones making money off of the Scream movies back in the day. Isn't that interesting? Yes. and then they got rid of, I guess, they fall under Paramount now. So, smashing opening weekend's reputation. Scream 2022's box office haul Friday to Monday, Martin Luther King Jr. holiday weekend debut was unprecedented, $36 million compared to this previous Scream movie installments. Scream 22 comes in third for opening weekend earnings, though technically moves it to first place if including money for its holiday weekend debut. I would include it. It's a day off on the weekend. Not only is this number impressive for a pandemic movie-going, Scream 2022's opening weekend box office success is one of the best January debuts in history. Much of this relies on the 25-year-old pull that Scream has had on audiences, but also its ability to bring the niche, dedicated and particularly young demographic of horror fans. Outside of superhero movies, Disney projects, and long-time action franchises, horror has been one of the only reliable genres at the movie theaters in recent years, pandemic or not. As such, it's not too much of a surprise that Scream 2022 was able to unseat No Way Home, one of the highest grossing films of all time, at the domestic box office its opening weekends. For further context, Scream 2022's $30.6 million opening weekend Friday to Sunday numbers also out-earns Disney's 2021 debuts of Free Guy, Jungle Cruise, Encanto, and Cruel. This is interesting. Horror movies are much of less risk to ticket buyers when deciding the worth of paying to see it in the theaters, as parodied in the five-film Scream franchise. Horror fans know what they're going to see because of how reliable the genre is, so whether or not the film is actually quote-unquote good, it's typically a good time. This is true. When audiences go see Scream 2022, they know they'll see teenagers slashed by a mysterious ghost face. When they go see Halloween, they know they'll see an invincible Michael Myers murdered frightened Haddonfield residents. Horror movies box office also aren't as damaged by poor critical or audience reception as typical Disney films. Take Halloween Kills, for example, which was panned by critics, but wildly outperformed its expectations and competition at the box office. You know what made Halloween Kills box office success interesting was that it was available for streaming, I think, almost for free. And people still went to the movies theater to see it.
True.
It was still terrible. But anyway.
One thing I do want to point out, though, is that not only what you just said about them being, a good bet. You go, you spend your money, you know what you're getting into. You're going to they could have almost thrown in, that it's kind of like pizza. Even a bad pizza is still pretty good pizza. Horror movies, generally the same thing. But what they're not saying is another point in the favor of horror films, and that's that they cost a lot less to make than these big budget superhero films and sci-fi films and all the After Effect type films. You can generally get away with very low budgets on horror films.
The old argument in Hollywood was what you wanted to do as an investor. There were two movies you wanted to make, either a horror movie or a comedy, because you'd always get return on your investment with those. Now, of course, comedies have taken a major hit because of the rampant political correctness.
Well, and that's just it. Your comedy actually needs to be funny. And if it's not funny, it's going to tank, which, I'll point you to, Ghostbusters 2016 and anything that McCarthy chick has been in. It's not funny. We're not going to go see it. Horror movies, I would argue you could make the same argument and say they need to be scary, but the formula is pretty simple for what's scary. If you're not a good writer and you can't build the drama, throw in a jump scare. It's a cheap thrill. It still works. Yeah.
Well, let me go on to say, while Disney can reliably churn out sure bets as box office hits with categories like superhero movies, sci-fi franchises, you're talking about Star Wars, right? Okay, because I don't know what else you're referring to there, and all-inclusive animated phenomena, the studio lacks proficiency in horror, one of the most reliable genres at the box office. Disney can make classic Halloween set movies like The Nightmare Before Christmas, but they're historically kitschy and family-orientated.
Yeah.
Frankenweenie was good, though. Which aren't going to draw in... What?
Good point.
I did like Frankenweenie, but that was basically a Tim Burton project.
Yes, it was.
So was Nightmare Before Christmas, if you think about it. Okay, but niche horror fanatics that want Michael Myers in a mask or Sidney Prescott chasing down another Ghostface. Disney's best-loved horror or gothic films are geared toward families, and many never even saw theatrical releases. While Disney acquired the rights to a few horror franchises like The Fly, Alien, and Predator from its deal with 20th Century Studios, the House of Mouse has yet to move forward on successfully rebooting or reinvigorating such films because they don't like the R rating. That's part of the problem.
And that's perfectly fine. So they should just keep 20th Century Fox alive.
It's called 20th Century Studios.
I know. And so you make films under that, that are not necessarily family friendly.
But Disney did this in the old days. Disney had other things under them. They had, like I said, they had Dimension with the Weinstein deal. They had, what else did they have under Disney?
Miramax.
Miramax. That was more the indie films, though. Basically, Dimension was the commercial side of Miramax. I'll put it that way. But they had Touchstone Pictures. That was for more adult-orientated affair. I think, did they also own Hollywood Pictures? I believe. That was another distribution they had, and I guess they threw those away because they want to we're the family-friendly quote-unquote company, and I don't know.
Well, it comes down to you spent a lot of money on something, you better either sell it or use it.
Yeah, but they don't have Scream anymore, now it's kind of hitting them back, and...
So you saw this movie, am I correct?
Yes.
Was it a woke fest?
I don't believe it was either. It does bring up the quote-unquote how the fans or quote-unquote toxic fans were angry about the last Scream movie that was directed by the Knives Out guy.
Yeah.
Which was basically, who they're talking about.
Yes.
I don't think it's... I'll be honest with you. I don't think it's trying to make a commentary one way or the other. I don't want to say too much more because it's going to spoil the movie, but there are call-outs to... what they call in the movie requels do, where it's a reboot and a sequel, and how they're read. Like, even the title Scream, they're not calling it Scream 5, they're calling it Scream to be extra confusing to you in the audience. It's like, it's not... I want to talk to you about it, but it kind of... The whole point of the Scream movie is that it's a whodunit, okay? So
since I haven't seen the film, there's really no way I can spoil it. I can tell you what I've heard obliquely about it. And on the
Okay.
one hand,
Yeah, tell me the criticisms you
on the
heard
one,
chats.
well, before I get to the criticisms,
Okay, go ahead.
let me reinforce what you just said. I have heard that in the vein of being a Scream film, think back to the first Scream movie, which was a commentary, not exactly a parody, but a self-referential kind
Yes.
of horror film that played with the horror tropes, even going so far as to outline, literally in film, in dialogue, what the rules of a horror film are, and then proceeding to either play up to them or break them and, play around with them. It was very self-referential. And that's really what made Scream different, and that's really why people loved Scream so much.
Mm-hmm.
So, what I have heard from at least one commenter that I respect a lot was that specifically this movie does exactly that for films of the modern era.
Yes.
Particularly franchise films.
Yes.
Looking at and self-referentially commenting on things like woke culture, toxic fandom, the soft reboot, the retconning reboot, the naming conventions of sequels, and so forth. All of that sounds very good. Plus, I heard that they bring back there's callbacks to and Easter eggs of, and kind of like Ghostbusters Afterlife did. Bring back the old people, hand off the story to the next generation without, stepping all over, what went before it. And I heard there's even a line of reference to not disrespecting the classics.
Yes.
Which should make anybody who's struggled with, our franchises being trodden on, just stand up and cheer,
Basically, what this movie is doing, it is simply presenting the fact that there are people that are fans of these classic things and are getting angry about them being effed with.
Yeah.
And I think that's all it's, and I think that's all saying, and it, you could read it either way, that, they're being outraged or they're not, but I think, because there's a franchise within the Scream universe known as the Stab franchise. I don't know if you bothered seeing any of the sequels yet. I know you got them all again. You probably saw the first one. But basically, they end up making a movie based off of the first Scream movie in the Scream universe, and they call it
Which is
Stab.
kind of funny because this isn't even the first time something like this has happened, because Nightmare on Elm Street did the same thing, where Nightmare on Elm Street is, a story within the Nightmare on Elm Street story, and the
Yes.
movie and all that. Kind
Wes
of
Craven's New Nightmare. Yeah,
Yep.
that was also another one that they did. He argued that Scream was looking at the horror movie from the audience perspective, whereas New Nightmare was from the production perspective. People working on the movie, and it was like a meta on that. And I don't typically like the term meta, obviously, because of metaverse, but I liked what they did with this movie. I thought it was clever.
The important thing with when you make a meta reference is to understand what's meant by that. A meta reference is something that breaks the fourth wall, that is self-referential, that knows it is. It's kind of like being Deadpool, knowing you're in a movie or comic book. It's that kind of thing, making a meta reference.
Yeah, kind of. It'd be funny if Deadpool showed up in a Scream movie. I don't know.
I'll tell you what, it would be funny if he showed up in anything.
I know, but I could see that happening.
Yeah.
Or even just having Ryan Reynolds in a Scream movie as somebody. That might be interesting. As like the town sheriff or something, right?
And the thing is that Ryan Reynolds has been in so many things. To see him then show up in a sequel to something and make a little oblique, Deadpool reference, and even do that little thing where he looks into the camera, kind of like that meme,
Well, think about it. If Ryan Reynolds was in a Scream movie, I would think, is he the killer or isn't he? Because you wouldn't know, right?
Yeah, and you're through the whole movie, you'd be like, I could see this going either way.
I have to give full credit, though. I don't want to spoil anything about the movie itself, but it's what I always liked about the Scream movies, and I didn't realize this. Well, for starters, when the first Scream came out, whether or not you liked the movie as a horror fan, you have to give it points for one thing. I think it helped in horror movie preservation. Because it was around the time that DVD was first starting to get introduced, and because Scream comes out, they start releasing all of these old slasher movies that were talked about in the Scream movie, and they would sell well, and then they would release more of them, and suddenly you have all these obscure horror movies finally coming back into the limelight. And would that have happened if not for the fact that you had this nerdy guy, played by the great Master of Disguise actor who I can't think of his name right now, darn it. Okay, but anyway, he the expert in the movie who was talking about all the old slasher movies like Prom Night and whatnot. And I think because of that, a lot of these movies got the love they kind of got re-released
an
on
audience
DVD.
that comes in and watches Scream then
wants to
hears
go
about all
back and
these other
watch
ones
the
and
old
goes,
things.
Yeah.
And that's
Good
a way to get your audience interested in old stuff. Because I'm sorry,
Well,
when you look at young people, somebody's not going to want to watch the old stuff.
And you're speaking to a marketing mindset, right? This whole idea where Hollywood has been lately jettisoning the old audience in favor of a new one that never actually materializes. A smart marketing team is like, no, we need to keep the old audience and add to it as much as possible. So you want, your Star Trek, Star Wars, whatever audience to bring their kids in and share it with them and buy the toys for them and have them watch the old stuff. And that's all good. In business they used to call that synergy. That's good synergy. These crazy buzzwords aren't completely meaningless. There is value to that kind of a thing.
Yeah, there is. And I am going to say this about the new Scream movie. I do think that on some level, and I'm going to go too far into it, I think that there is subtle targeting of the Disney Star Wars sequel trilogy in there. I'm not going to tell you how until after you've seen it, because I might have already said too much.
Well, I think I already got it with the whole Knives Out thing, yeah.
Sort of, yeah, but there's other stuff in there too, which I don't want to get into it, but I'm telling you.
Which is why, guys, you do have to make your own conclusion. Don't just go up based on what Boomer and what I've said about it is all secondhand anyway, so definitely don't go by anything.
This is what I'm going to say based on my own opinion of this Scream 5. Some of them people out there liked the first Scream but didn't care about the sequels. If you're a fan of the Scream sequels, you'll like this movie. And I'm kind of hit or miss on the sequels. Like, I thought 2 and 3 were okay. I actually ended up liking 4 a lot more than I thought I would, which was the more recent one, not recent, like 11 years ago. And then this new one is kind of on par with that one. So it'd be interesting if they can keep this series going over time. I mean,
all I am going to
they
say
can do
is
a lot.
that there is another media outlet out there, one of the big channels, that just dumped the crap all over it, saying, "Oh, it's a big woke fest," blah 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 blah.
I'm not seeing it. I'm not seeing it.
And and Boomer's not seeing it, and I'm like, then it sounds like what happened is you're missing the nuance here, and you are like a whipped puppy who only sees the stick. You're not seeing when someone is taking the stick away and breaking it over their knee.
I think this movie respected the legacy characters while introducing us to new characters that we would actually like to see in further sequels, which is maybe what a certain other franchise should have done.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
But I say if you do get around to watching Scream 5 and the rest of them, we can talk about it maybe on one of your streams sometime. I'd like to
would argue
about it with spoiler detail. But yeah,
absolutely. Mm-hmm. But I would also point out that I think a lot, and I had speculated that this was going to be the case anyway, that more and more studios are starting to look at big failures like the Star Wars sequels and going, yeah, let's never do that. Let's learn from their mistakes. It's a lot cheaper to learn from someone else's mistakes than from your own. Just saying.
Yeah, and I'll say this: I wasn't expecting anything from this new Scream movie. I didn't even watch the trailer, and I said, not Scream again. But I keep thinking, I did like Scream 4 when I saw it, and I liked this one when I saw it. So I need to cut this series some slack. I also, with Russ Craven no longer with us, they did do a nice thing at the end for Wes, which was nice.
I'm glad to hear that. Yeah.
And Scream 4 is also interesting. I'd like to hear your take on that. But again, I don't want to spoil that movie for you when you get around to watching it. Oh, Hayden Panettieri's in that one, which is kind of neat.
I like her.
And Emma Roberts is in that as well. But also the legacy characters,
I have no idea who
too.
that is.
Julia Roberts' niece. She shows up on television. I think she's on that American Horror Story now. But she was also Nancy Drew, I think, in a Nancy Drew movie. But
I will try to watch those this week. That's what I'll try to do.
There's no rush. I know Scream 5 is still in theaters. I don't know if you want to wait on that one until it comes to streaming or if you want to actually go to a theater and see it. That's cool too. But
I don't know. We'll see.
But when you do get around to watching all of them, we should talk
if I get
about it.
If I get through the first 4 and I'm really hyped, maybe I will want to run out to the theater and see it.
Okay, there we go. I'm trying to think what else, and I do want to make one other nice thing to say about Scream 5. Red Letter Media had something that they used to call when they reviewed the January movies, and I'm going to cuss. They used to say, "Fuck you, it's January." Like that's what the studio said. Because the point was horrible movies came out in January, nothing good. This is a good movie that came out in January that was worth paying to see on the big screen.
I think that's another area where the industry is really shooting themselves in the foot, okay? Because and I had this conversation with someone at work talking about, sales figures and whatnot. Look, I don't care if it's first quarter or fourth quarter. You want to do your best all the time, right? And if you're going to release a movie, you want to choose the best time you can to release it, but ultimately you should never expect something you're releasing to be a failure. You should expect it to be profitable, and you should expect it to be as profitable as possible. And you've got to remember that there was a time when big movies came out at the holidays, and then there was a time when that shifted, and it was the summer blockbuster. And we could debate, what movies, caused those kinds of changes, but those dynamics change all the time. You should never get into a rut of assuming that any one given time is your sweet spot and any other time outside of that's going to be a failure.
Yeah, and actually, in Disney's own defense, I'll defend them, at least when they're in the Marvel heyday, they would release those movies at odd times, and they would still be hits. So, I didn't really start turning on Disney until recently. It was only like the last couple of years,
And part of that is, and we've seen the studios do this, they kind of work, I don't want this to release on the same week as this because that'll take away from... And that is intelligent. That is smart. There's nothing wrong with that.
Jamie Kennedy played Randy. Jamie Kennedy is... He remember did you ever see the show The Jamie Kennedy Experiment?
Yes.
Where he would be in disguises.
Yeah.
He is a master of... He's one of those actors that's a master of disguise.
He really is. Yeah. He also... this is another one of those ones where being an actor is not necessarily a reflection. You could be good and still have crap to work with. He was in the sequel to The Mask, and I felt like this guy's talented, but this film is still awful. He
needed to be in a better movie than The Mask 2. He's a good actor, and I could see he was probably too young for that role.
I actually think he could have done a great sequel to The Mask, but that wasn't it.
It's Jim. Yeah, that's what I had heard. But he's a good actor. I remember one time there was this show on TV called Criminal Minds, which I have a lot of problems with because it was. Sometimes it would elicit laughter from me when I would watch it because of the ridiculousness of the killers on there. And even though they took it so seriously. But there's an episode where this killer gets released from jail, even though like the psychologist is saying, don't release him, he's going to kill again. They release him from jail, right? And then these women end up getting murdered, but they can't find them. And then like the... one of the lead CSI guys, they're out in the field, and then he figures out that the guy handing out soup to the search party is the killer in disguise, and the soup is made up of his victims. And then the priest guy that Morgan was with punches him, which I thought the priest punches the guy. And it turns out the killer was Jamie Kennedy. I didn't even recognize it was Jamie Kennedy in the episode. They realized, he's the master of disguise. It's just stupid. Anyway, I'm ending on a Criminal Minds reference. I think it's late. So I think that's the last story.
No, that's okay. Netter's probably fired up because she's a big Criminal Minds fan.
I'm sorry. I like Joe Montana in anything. And Paget Brewster, I would like... Just never mind. I'm not going to say anything.
Okay.
I'll be polite on the air. I'd like to see her wearing less, but anyway. But I don't know. That show... Some of the stories on that show were...
it was pretty hit and miss. And let's face it, whatever the story is, it's all about character. You get caught up in these characters, and if the characters are drawn well, if they're written well, you're going to love them, and that'll carry you through an episode or two with, a dumb plot. And I think that's what a lot of writers have kind of lost track of. Especially, if you're going to do a sequel to a big budget, franchise, and then you're going to crap all over the characters people loved. Well, no, there's not going to be any forgiveness for your crappy plot,
Yeah. No. And that's sort of basically what Scream 5's about.
Yeah.
I don't want to go into more detail about
it. And
the
fans are going to come at you with all knives out.
It talks too much about the killer's motive, okay, that they're not, with knives out, you're right. Anyway.
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny. I didn't even think about that. That's another play on thing. Anyway.
Yep.
I have my headline Scream stabs box office because, of course, meta stab, also the name of the movie Scream. It's like, what do you got going on this week?
So, let's start with Tuesday. I know that we have Culture Fortress coming up.
No, we don't. Not this week.
We don't?
Not
Is it the following week?
Following week. Yes.
Oh, okay. So we do have a little time on that.
Yeah. It's always the first Tuesday of the month.
Oh, sorry. Mm-hmm. Because I got to figure out what I'm talking about. I know that. Did the last one? Did I talk about?
Well, you never. Go ahead.
Did I do the talk on Quantum Leap already?
You did it on my stream. I already did the clip video of it. You could also do it on Culture Fortress again, but again, it's a repeat of what we just did. But you haven't done it on Culture Fortress yet, so you can't think of anything.
I think that's what I had said to...
You could talk about time tracks. No, I don't know.
Time tracks? That sounds familiar. What was that?
Not time tracks. Sliders. I get those two confused.
Sliders is a good one too. But that one I haven't seen in a long time, and I missed.
Do Quantum Leap on Culture Fortress. Maybe you'll think of other things to talk about.
I think that's what I'm going to do. But that's getting ahead of ourselves. Is there something else going on Tuesday with?
No, not this week, as far as I know. No.
Okay. So Wednesday, you will be over on
Birdman's channel.
Birdman.
I'm going to watch 1941. Speaking of 1941, I actually have to watch 1941, don't I?
Have you never?
I've never seen it.
Oh, good.
I always heard it had a bit of a bad reputation, so I'm going to find out for myself.
I think part of that was the marketing on it. I think that it was billed as one thing when that's not what it was. I think, you got to check it out.
Yes, I'll check it out. And I'm trying to think what else is going on this week.
Well, let's see. Thursday, Friday. Obviously, my regular stream on Friday.
We had a good one.
Pardon me?
If you guys are big David Lynch fans, check out Friday's stream. We had a wonderful guest on.
Yeah, last Friday we did a rewatch and deep dive on Mulholland Drive with Stephen Otten, deleted scenes.
Yeah.
And for those of you that follow me on my Discord and are in the MeWe group for Friday night last call, I posted my notes from Mulholland Drive. They're pretty lengthy. But if you really want to dig into it, I would encourage you to check that out. But if you want to just do a surface level, go back and watch our commentary again. If you've seen Mulholland Drive and you're going, I have no idea what it was I just saw, But this week, I haven't decided for certain on a topic. There is at least a possibility I might be bringing back Stephanie Janicek. Because there's been a lot, and I kind of alluded to it a little bit, even with our talk about Scream,
Gotcha.
About some channels just going black pill, and the whole push by YouTube, and it really is the dynamic of YouTube. The algorithm very much encourages people to be very negative about everything.
Yeah,
and look, if you're trying to make a living at YouTube, then that just means you're going to end up having to fall into the everything is terrible and this is why. And I feel like that leaves your channel open to, well, why should I bother? You're doing a video about this and you're just going to say you hate it. So,
yeah, it's something to talk about. And have a good night, Art of Dread, and also good night, Go Team Ghost Planet Go, and anyone else listening on the rewatch. Good.
Yep.
Yeah.
But don't go away too soon. I did want to let you guys know, finish out the week. Saturday, over on Big Al's rewatch stream, there will be a rewatch of a classic Irwin Allen, I don't know if you want to call it horror or disaster film.
Disaster. It's in the disaster genre.
The Swarm.
Yeah, I would still classify it as a disaster movie, though maybe in the line of stuff like Jaws 2, because it's about the nature attacking us. But it's a. Oh man, The Swarm. Yeah. Looking forward to it. I'll be there too. Oh man.
So there you go. So that's what the week looks like. That brings us around to next week in the Geeky Geezers. So that's all I got.
Yeah, that'll be it for me. Like I said, Wednesday with Birdman and Friday with you. I'll probably be on with you and Stephanie.
Yep.
That's
just a possibility. I'm not certain.
You're not sure you're going to ask her if she wants to come on. Gotcha.
Yeah, I'm going to ask and we'll see. There's also another big name that I've been working on, but that might be a longer term. I don't think I can plan on that for this Friday. But yeah.
All right. Cool.
Okay.
All right. Well, y'all have a good night, and we'll catch you next week. Thank you for tuning in.
The best way out is always through. Take care.
Bye-bye.